Hello everyone and welcome back to The Other Castle.
The Other Castle, I'm Andrea.
And my name is Tom.
And here on The Other Castle, we do the plot, lore, and more behind all your favorite video games and video game characters, like in today's episode.
Spider-Man.
And that's all you can do without us getting sued, so shut the fuck up. Anyway, if you want to learn more about The Other Castle, you can check out our website, theothercastlepodcast.com.
That's theothercastlepodcast.com.
It has links out to like our Instagram, our Discord where we chat about everything. There's a little bit of gossip. We get a little spicy sometimes. There's an item shop where you can get shirts, cool shit with The Other Castle on it, and a link to our Patreon.
Patreon has monthly episodes for just $2 a month. We air those during the season and during the off season, so you get us year-round. There's also a 7-day free trial, so come on and check us out.
It's 8 quarters.
That's all it takes.
That's less than a soda now. Isn't that insane?
Wait, soda's more than $2?
Yeah.
Fuck soda.
Fuck soda. You're like, actually, let's take this back to big soda. Fuck you.
Yeah.
In a harsh turn of events, on August 10th, 1962, Spider-Man made his first swing into the world with his debut in Amazing Fantasy Volume 1, number 15.
Oh, we're going back to the beginning, y'all.
I couldn't figure out a good transition.
It's okay.
So I went with a dramatic one. This makes Spider-Man a Libra. The core lore is that a young boy, Peter Parker, is bitten by a radioactive spider and gains superpowers similar to spiders. He can crawl up walls, he's strong, and he has hyper-fast reflexes. You know how, like, spiders are like, cha!
Right.
You can't get me.
They're ninjas.
Yeah. Some of this is clearly embellished for content. He's raised by his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May in New York, and his best friend is Harry Osborn, and his love interest is Mary Jane Watson. Over the decades, both Spider-Man and Peter Parker have been solidified as some of the most human and powerful protagonists across media. And with great power comes great franchise potential. Comic books, cartoons, movies, games, and even more have been added to the ferocious franchise's legacy. The first Spider-Man game starring Spidey was the 1982 Atari's 2800 title, Spider-Man.
Awesome. I didn't know it went all the way back to the OG days of home consoles.
Older than you? Not only was it the first Spider-Man game, it was the first Marvel Comics video game, just period. Spider-Man has since headlined 40 video games and appeared in even more. Around 2014, Connie Price from Team Sony was at Insomniac Games visiting her friend Ted Price at the studio that he founded. Ted Price has recently announced that he's retiring from being the CEO of Insomniac after around 30 years.
That's a good run.
Connie turned to him and said, "Hey, what would you think about working on a Marvel game?" Casually. Ted says his reaction was neutral. The team had for so long worked on their own IP, including Spyro and Ratchet & Clank, and hadn't really considered licensed titles yet. He figured he would ask his team, though, and as he brought up the idea of doing a Marvel game, his team screamed at him, "Obviously, we want to do a Marvel game."
Right.
So Ted called Connie back and said, "All right, the team has some interest. Let's chat."
Well, I can see why he would be a little apprehensive, because usually you do a lot of licensing stuff early, so that way you can get a start in, the industry.
It's true. It's usually the inverse where that's where you cut your teeth and shit. Like, before Dead Space, Glenn Schofield worked on a Barbie game.
Right, exactly.
So, that's usually where you're like, all right, this is a safe bet. After a few short internal discussions in 2014, the team nearly unanimously agreed that Spider-Man was really compelling, relatable, and very popular, and would make for a fantastic game. Their conversations between Marvel and Insomniac were pretty quick, and by E3 2016, Insomniac announced that they would be releasing a AAA Spider-Man title exclusively for the PS4.
Oh, that is such a win.
This new branch of the Spider-Verse would take place in Earth 1048 and simply be titled Spider-Man. Earth 1048 houses all the Insomniac Spider titles and a handful of comics, but is predominantly home to the Insomniac world. Following the announcement, the Insomniac and Sony teams went off on a massive marketing campaign. Befit for a Kingpin.
Oh, very well done.
This is only the beginning, and I'm so sorry. At the 2017 E3, Sony had a real life-sized helicopter strung up in webbing between two buildings inside the event hall.
And as somebody who saw it firsthand, that was absolutely incredible.
That took you 0 seconds to bring up that you saw that in person. I definitely lost on the under there. Jesus Christ. So there's going to be a picture on our Instagram because I do have a couple shots from that year's E3, and I did have a couple pictures of the helicopter.
It was really cool.
As you can tell, Tom will take any excuse to discuss it.
It is a badge of honor to say you've been to E3 as many times as we have.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it's cool. I only snuck in once, but the times I was invited, we did make use of it, certainly. Although if you've seen Miss Saigon, you've seen a fucking helicopter on stage. It's fine.
Oh, whatever.
Iconic comic artist Alex Ross was commissioned to do a cover for the late great Game Informer magazine in honor of Spider-Man's return to gaming. For the 2018 NFL kickoff game, an ad ran for Spider-Man, and it has been confirmed by PlayStation to be the most expensive advertisement that the company had ever run.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah. That NFL shit makes so much goddamn advertising money. It's unreal.
And yet taxpayers fund their damn stadiums. Explain that shit.
That's a different podcast. I can't do that right now. With all this pressure to perform, Peter Parker did pull through and deliver. After its September 7th, 2018 release, the Spider-Man title sold 3.3 million units in 3 days, which made it the fastest-selling first-party game in Sony's history.
Damn.
2018's God of War, in comparison, had done 3.1 million, so just behind them. The first Spider-Man title is still the highest-selling PS4 game of all time.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah, and to date, it is still in the overall top 5 of highest-selling Sony titles, with 38 million units sold to date.
Honestly, it came out at a great time in the PlayStation 4's life cycle, like right in the middle.
Oh yeah, everyone had access to it, and it was a system seller for people who didn't.
Absolutely.
Interestingly, USA Today did research estimating that Spider-Man's release weekend sales were at least 198 million, which actually beat Spider-Man Homecoming's box office numbers, which were about 117 million.
Oh shit, like took down the movies.
That feels crazy, and I love that they did this analysis.
Yeah.
The sales figures weren't just fluff. Spider-Man is a genuinely fantastic title that was named Wired Magazine's best game of 2018. Spider-Man racked up over 70 official game nominations, but in the same year that God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, it only took home around 11 awards.
God, 2018 was absolutely insane.
The most banger year we've lived through, certainly.
Holy shit.
Despite being a massive gem in a year of other equally massive gems, Spider-Man's legacy was preserved by some solid DLC episodes and eventual follow-up games. Our PlayStation Spider-Man is played by BAFTA-nominated actor Yuri Lowenthal.
And he is quintessentially Spider-Man to me at this point.
Yes, more so than any of the other ones, frankly. He was featured in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as his Earth 1048 Spider-Man at the Spidey Society headquarters. Also in Across the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales' Earth roommate, Genki, is playing the Spider-Man game in their dorm room, so it's kind of a double tap on Yuri Lowenthal's Spider-Man appearance.
Oh shit, really?
And kind of breaks some dimensional stuff, but it's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
Yuri Lowenthal has called this role the role of a lifetime, and said it made coming to work every day so exciting because, well, obviously he got to be Spider-Man.
So I imagine they didn't do a lot of mocap for this one.
Why?
Because Yuri's like 50.
He is.
And I don't think he's doing backflips and shit.
Well, they're called stunt performers, and they're very valid, Tom. And I appreciate you calling him out, because, his path with getting the role was interesting. In the early days of the project, Insomniac had Yuri Lowenthal in the voice of All-American Badass BJ Blazkowicz himself, my husband, Brian Bloom. I need to stop just assuming I have relationships with fictional characters and their
actors.
Actual counterparts. That's fucking weird and parasocial. I'm sorry, immediately. Anyway, those two recorded a demo for the original Spider-Man game for Insomniac. They recorded and left, and Insomniac hired a different actor to step in as Spider-Man.
Oh, shit.
And even through the leaks, I could not figure out what actor it was.
Oh.
I looked at some weird shit to try and figure out who it was. Couldn't get it down. No. About a year after Yuri Lowenthal recorded the demo with Brian Bloom, Insomniac decided to go a different direction with the performance of the title character and called Yuri to come back in and read for Spider-Man officially. Yuri would read for Spider-Man a total of 4 times before landing the role.
How the hell do you not know with Yuri Lowenthal? Like, hadn't he been playing Spider-Man prior to that?
Yes, he first voiced Spider-Man in a 2010 pinball game. And he would go on to voice Spider-Man in a total of 4 pinball games.
4 pinball games specifically.
Just the pinball games. And he was also Spider-Man in 2014's Spider-Man Ultimate game, 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, and Marvel Superhero Squad Online.
Oh my gosh.
And obviously he's currently Spider-Man in Marvel Rivals.
Ugh, and now I hate him.
You hate him and the shark, right?
Yeah, fuck Jeff the Shark.
Of Yuri's 820 IMDb credits to date, 16 of those credits are for playing Spider-Man,
Jesus.
which is around 2% of his credited roles, but it's still a very insanely impressive number for the actor.
He has spent a lot of time as Spider-Man.
He really was. And by this point in his career, he said he was actually really nervous he wouldn't get the job because he's so much older than his iteration of Peter Parker is supposed to be in the game.
Like twice his age.
Yeah, fully. And he didn't need to because he's had a ton of experience in the role, which is obviously a huge leg up. In addition to Yuri Lowenthal's fantastic Peter Parker performance, the game's cast is rounded out with Laura Bailey as Mary Jane Watson,
God damn.
critical role mainstay Travis Willingham as Wilson Fisk, regular shows William Sailors as Otto Octavius, Najee Jeter as Miles Morales, Brian Bloom, hi, as the Taskmaster, Stephen O. Young as the mysterious Martin Lee, and Darren DePaul as J. Jonah Jameson.
Okay, like, honestly, as great as we have had for J. Jonah Jameson and J.K. Simmons, this guy brings it.
Oh, he's so good. He's Reinhardt in Overwatch,
Yeah, in
too.
Overwatch as well, but he brings it as J. Jonah Jameson in such an incredible way.
Fully. He's such a good performer. I love him. And he has the right energy. It's so manic.
Right.
And it's so aggressive. He nails the character so perfectly.
That anger.
I do want to take it back to Najee Jeter, who plays Miles Morales. Now, he also played Sam, the younger boy in The Last of Us 1 who gets bitten and attacks Ellie.
Really?
Yeah, and he's also played Miles Morales in the Disney XD Spider-Man show, which is what got him the reading for the Insomniac game.
Good for him.
So they really just were like, who's already voiced these characters? Call them the fuck up, let's go. His work on Miles Morales in the sequel to this game had earned him a BAFTA in the same year and round where he beat Yuri Lowenthal for Best Performer in a Leading Role in Spider-Man 2.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I'm jumping ahead, but that's such a fun fact I couldn't not bring it up.
Yeah, right? Damn.
Like, the student literally becomes the master.
Right, fully.
Are you kidding me? Anyway, that could be a separate podcast and me losing my mind.
Yeah, the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We do that for the show. No, I see you. Okay. One of my favorite bits of casting is for the police partner of Peter Parker, the character Captain Yuri Watanabe. Yuri Watanabe is played by Tara Platt, Yuri Lowenthal's real-life long-term spouse.
Really?
Yeah, they've been married since 2001.
Oh my god, that explains the chemistry.
She gave birth to their first child just a few months before Spider-Man was released. This poor woman had the most stressful fucking season of her life.
Holy shit, yeah.
Yuri Lowenthal has said that yelling out his own name, Yuri, at his wife was never not weird.
Yeah, it has to be strange, right?
Out of every name in the book, we have a bunch of Yuris today? What's happening? The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are 2/3 of the way perfect. I saw the 2002 first one in theaters about 6 times, and that's not hyperbole.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my brain chemistry.
I remember sneaking out of the house to go see the midnight release.
And you know, I grow up to marry a mild-mannered, blue-eyed brunette just like Spider-Man, and I too have a complicated love for Mary Jane.
Well done.
But for now, it's pizza time. This is Spider-Man. Our first look in New York City is on a bright day. In the center of the scene is a wild spider, curling itself around a web it's weaving and descending into a windowsill. This game is very subtle.
It's just perfect imagery for the opening of a Spider-Man game.
Well, how else would you start it? The windowsill frames a bedroom with photos all along the wall. Some are of family, some are of friends, some are of New York City itself. Among the photos is a police scanner, humming with crime. Deeper in the room is a desk, messy with scientific obligation. Small gears and equipment for building tiny robotics. A magazine has a man named Norman Osborn on the cover. A laptop is open and running diagnostics on a project. A bulletin board has cover stories from the local rag, the Daily Bugle, featuring some of the villains in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery like Rhino, Scorpion, and Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. A phone buzzes and a sleepy guy grabs it, and it chirps at Police APB calling all units to Fisk Tower. The sleepy guy sits at attention, and we get our first look at Peter Parker. He jumps into action, throwing bread in his toaster and grabbing his spider suit. The suit smells like shit, and he's disappointed in himself. Now, there is a version of this opening scene that was shot in a shot-for-shot recreation of the opening of Back to the Future.
Really?
Yeah, where Peter Parker is Marty McFly sleeping sloppily like an asshole, face down, ass up. That's the way he likes to sleep, and is waking up to achieve greatness.
Oh, damn.
If you want to guess what my level of brain rot is.
Oh, my God. Well, it's so funny because, like, I was with you when you saw the Back to the Future movies for your first time, and that was the one thing you kept picking up on. You're like, Marty McFly sleeps like an asshole.
Just feet everywhere, face down, just... That can't be good for your back, dude.
He does. He's a horrible sleeper for some fucking reason.
I would love for them to release the Back to the Future cut of this game. Peter Parker puts on his wrist web shooters, shoves the toast in his mouth, and suits up. As soon as we get our first look at Peter Parker, we immediately get our first look at Spider-Man.
Hell yeah, we do.
He looks around his tiny, dirty apartment as an overdue bill is slid under his door.
Oh, shit. Every time.
He ignores it and jumps out of his window and into the New York City streets, swinging through the air and gliding through buildings. Spider-Man's swinging mechanics were the one element that the Insomniac team prioritized that had to be right, non-negotiable. As their creative director stated, you don't think of Spider-Man on the ground, you think of him swinging. He has to be able to swing through buildings, do a flip, and almost hit the ground and shoot back up into the skyscrapers. That's the ultimate wish fulfillment of being Spider-Man.
That's like the whole point of being Spider-Man.
Otherwise, you're Worm Man. Like, shut the fuck up and stay on the ground. We're not doing this. The web swinging is very physics-based, with the webs connecting to buildings and creating a pendulum motion that feels natural to how Spider-Man would traverse New York City. The game physics of momentum, swinging, and power behind each move makes the swinging feel truly so satisfying and iconic. There's only a handful of games where traversal is so good you skip fast travel, and it's like this, Red Dead 2, and probably Death Stranding. I haven't played it.
Yeah, basically.
Spider-Man swings towards Fisk Tower, and on the way calls his friend and kind of colleague, Captain Yuri Watanabe. Spider-Man asks if they took Fisk down yet, and she tells him, no, they need the full warrant. Fisk's lawyers are really good, and they can't afford to not do it by the book.
He's a very wealthy man.
Very much so. Spider-Man whines that he's wanted to get Fisk arrested for 8 years. Yuri offers a consolation. If Spider-Man wants to help so bad, he can go to Times Square right now. Sounds like Fisk's guys are pulling some bullshit to distract from Fisk's Tower down here. Spider-Man accepts this consolation and on his way gets a call from work. His boss says that he needs Peter Parker to run through the presentation and it's very important. Peter tells him he'll be there after he handles a personal issue. You know, a shootout at Times Square.
With the richest man in town.
One of the most photographed places in the nation. And it's truly a flimsy, shitty lie, and after he tells it, he hangs up on his boss.
Oh, Pete.
In Times Square, there's a bunch of militia-armed assholes working for Fisk, shooting at cop cars. Just loosely. From above and one by one, Spider-Man webs each of their guns right out of their arms. After disarming the assholes, he lands in front of them saying, "Morning, guys! Who's ready for their hot, fresh cup of bodily harm?" It's not Spider-Man without a little corn, you know?
All the quips.
Spider-Man makes quick work of these assholes, and a second wave of assholes. And after that, he gets back in contact with Yuri, who has the green light, finally, to arrest Wilson Fisk. Spider-Man is so excited to see him get arrested. He's like, this is all I've ever wanted! It's all happening! A large explosion catches Spider-Man's attention over by Fisk Tower, and he rushes to the scene, because he knows Fisk won't go quietly at all. At the steps of Fisk Tower, even more militia-armed assholes are shooting at the cops and protecting the fortress of Fisk Tower. Spider-Man lands near Captain Yuri, who says that if Fisk makes it out of the tower, they'll never get him. She tells Spider-Man to go do his thing. Spider-Man makes a fist and says, "Yes!" and dives into action, because he's still just a sweet, weird boy at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's got permission at least now.
After Spider-Man throws a grown man over 20 feet to the concrete, he starts taking out more waves of militia-armed assholes on Fisk's payroll. Inside the building, Spider-Man says, "I guess this is what they call a hostile workplace," before flinging a trash can at someone's head.
You're the one making it hostile, dude.
Also, Days Gone really got shit on for their dialogue, and we were like, no, this was the shit. I'm really riding for a little justice for Ben Studios.
I feel like everybody's riding for it right now.
I know, but then we're like, but also Spider-Man exists, and it's like, yeah, but he says shit like this. Are you kidding me? I know it's part of the character, but goddamn. Spider-Man takes out the assholes and makes way for the cops, who safely start navigating Fisk Tower to arrest Kingpin. Yuri checks in on Spider-Man, who says that Fisk has armed men on every floor, and they're shooting at the helicopters. She also warns him that, hey, they got word that Fisk's team is wiping their servers and destroying evidence. Spider-Man resolves to head over to the server room and preserve what he can. While ascending an elevator shaft, Peter Parker gets a call from Aunt May.
Oh my god.
She just wants to make sure Peter's coming over for dinner tomorrow night. She's concerned about all the shooting and screaming she's hearing on the other end of the line, but Peter says, I'm watching a superhero movie, and then gets off the phone as quickly as he can.
A superhero movie, too, on top of it.
It's the best he could do. Immediately after telling Aunt May he loves her, Spider-Man kicks a man in the face and concusses the childhood memories out of him. Spider-Man makes it to the server room, where all the data is set to be hard-wiped within a minute. This kicks off a timed event where Spider-Man has to knock out about 7 or 8 assholes and download everything he can before it's corrupted or gone for good. While Spider-Man is doing this, Fisk FaceTimes him on a massive security screen and calls Spider-Man a coward and a child. Spider-Man blows it off and tells him it's part of his charm as he downloads felony conviction level data from the Fisk servers.
I do like that Spider-Man has like a whole like cyberpunk visual in front of him where he can see like their face up in the corner. He's having those kind of conversations and shit.
Yeah. Fisk sends another wave of assholes in after Spider-Man, but Spider-Man handles it quickly and non-lethally. Technically.
Technically.
On the massive screens, Fisk watches as Spider-Man kicks the shit out of all of his employees and warns him, without me, the scum I keep in check will run rampant and it'll be your fault. This is foreshadowing. There are waves and waves of militia-armed assholes, and then some show up with rocket launchers. We're about 25 minutes into the game. Spider-Man says, what, is it National Rocket Day or something?
They were on sale.
But honestly, anytime I get a rocket launcher in a game, I'm like, this is a good game. Game of the year.
Yeah, but now you're having them shot at you.
That means you can take them back, Tom. Spider-Man makes it up to Fisk, who manages to lock Spider-Man in a room with massive turrets. Wilson Fisk is gigantic, and he lumbers around chasing after Spider-Man, while Spidey webs him up to keep him from pounding his beefy fists in his slender spider body. Wilson Fisk is so beefy and bull-like, he can run straight through concrete slabs in the battle arena. It's fucking weird.
I've never really understood what his power set is. It just seems to be large and strong.
And rich.
And rich.
That's one of the most common denominators of supervillains.
That's very true.
In fiction and nonfiction, Tom. Eventually, Fisk calls for backup and berates his little asshole soldiers for not being able to kick Spider-Man's ass, something he also could not do. Wilson Fisk manages to pin Spider-Man down on the floor and smashes his fists around his body.
Ooh.
This breaks the floor underneath both of them, and they plummet to the floors below together. They fight while falling, throwing fists and kicking off of each other as they dive through Fisk Tower. Just as they begin to break through the grand entrance, Spider-Man web catches Fisk and ties him up. Fisk hangs by the spider web, upside down, suspended in the foyer of his own tower.
Hell yeah, caught finally.
Spider-Man gracefully lowers himself to meet Fisk's gaze. Their faces parallel, but one upside down, one hanging in webbing. And asks, should we kiss now?
Oh my god, a perfect reference.
The NYPD officers gather just below Fisk, now trapped in webbing, guns drawn, ready to take him in. Spider-Man says, oh, maybe later. Wilson Fisk is rescued from the webbed trap and is led out of the building in handcuffs. The battle caused quite a lot of attention, so the press is outside snapping pictures and screaming questions at him as he's led into a police vehicle. As Fisk takes in the last breath of air he'll have as a free man, Spider-Man lands on top of the police vehicle and starts taunting him. He says, oh, are you finally off to Rikers? You probably have more enemies there than I do. Fisk stares into his beady, arachnid eyes and says, if you think that this will be more than a minor inconvenience... And Spider-Man cuts him off saying, oh, gotta go. Good luck, Willie.
Just takes away his final word.
As Spider-Man webs himself out into the New York skyline, Wilson Fisk screams up at him, "Idiot! I'm the one who kept order in this city. 1 month. In 1 month, you'll wish you had me back." The cop slams the vehicle doors around Wilson Fisk, and he's whisked off to jail. Spider-Man says, "All right, Kingpin is going to prison. Maybe I should go celebrate. Go on a vacation."
Take some time off.
Well, in the financial district where Fisk Tower is, there's a specific movie theater that Spider-Man can find that has a pretty fun Easter egg.
Oh my god.
About 4 months before the game came out, a fan tweeted to Insomniac asking if they could put an Easter egg in just for him and his partner. They worked it out, and this movie theater would have a message on the marquee. "Maddie, will you marry me?"
That's so adorable.
About 3 weeks prior to the game coming out, Maddie allegedly left the fan for his brother.
God, Maddie, you bitch.
The game shipped with the Easter egg intact after the breakup.
Oh, he forgot to call it off. Oh my god, when you're that devastated, you do not think about all the little things you might have set up.
And it's his brother.
It's his brother, you fucking asshole.
It's not a nice thing to do.
Not anybody involved. I mean, poor guy. Like, honestly, the poor guy just lost 2 people that day.
Yeah, that sucks. So that's in the game.
Oh, my lord. I remember when this happened. It was so sad. I think they did patch it out, though.
They did eventually, yeah, but damn, that sucks.
And for it to launch with it still.
Peter Parker gets another call from work saying, "The committee will be here soon. We need to run an equipment check." Peter promises to be there soon and heads over, worried that his boss may hurt himself. Spider-Man swings through the city and lands on a rooftop. Quickly, Peter changes out of his spider suit and heads into the office, dressed in street clothes and a lab coat. As he walks in, Peter apologizes for being late and looks up at Dr. Otto Octavius with his full robotic arm apparatus strapped to his back.
Hold on, so Otto Octavius is his boss?
Yeah.
Okay.
His robotic arms come around him. Otto is a middle-aged, balding, kind of like soft-bodied guy with glasses. He's in a short turtleneck and lab coat, and the light shines down on him, highlighting his physical shortcomings as he works contrastingly with the superhuman that is Peter Parker. Otto reaches his human hand out, and his robotic arm moves in tandem with it. Peter looks in awe, then sparks start flying from computer machinery.
Oh shit.
Peter rushes to fix things, but there's a power surge, and the machinery Dr. Octavius is connected to begins to spark. Otto falls to the ground coughing and says, "All right, it's a setback, but we're close." Otto has been working with Peter Parker diligently on developing better robotic prosthetics to give hope to people who have lost limbs or have limited mobility. Getting the robotic arm to move was a huge advancement, but they still have work to do. A small committee of 3 science government agents walk in, demanding to know if anyone was hurt. The committee director coughs with smoke filling the room and asks to speak to Otto. Otto dismisses Peter from work for the rest of the day, defeated by his own machinery. Otto leads the committee out of the lab, but Peter hangs back to investigate what went wrong with the robotics demo. Through some trial and error, Peter helps get the lab back up and running and swiftly leaves the same way he came in, out the roof.
Right, and that's the thing, is like, Otto's not questioning that ever. Like, why are you coming in through the roof all the time?
That's where I park. What do you mean?
Yeah, every time you come, the elevator's always at the bottom.
Yeah. Like, I'll come out and I'll see it's not there, dude.
Yeah.
Spider-Man gets his suit back on and hits the streets swinging. Captain Yuri Watanabe calls Spider-Man to confirm that Wilson Fisk didn't get sent to Rikers. He got sent to the Raft. Now, the Raft is a floating prison similar to Alcatraz, and right now it houses Scorpion, Rhino, Electro, and the Vulture.
Ah, super prison.
Spider-Man says, "That's esteemed company." Yuri invites Spider-Man over to the precinct to check on something. On the way, Spider-Man does what most people do during their commute, and he puts on a podcast. Spider-Man catches up on Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson, a show that's described as where listeners discuss the issues affecting the city with 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning former publisher of the Daily Bugle and author of Spider-Man, Threat or Menace.
Alex Jones. No.
Yeah. Turning the spiders.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just a air of Cave Johnson arrogance in this performance that I really appreciate, and I
Fully.
love it.
Oh, it's such a good characterization, like I said.
This episode has a caller telling Jonah that he's gotta have some respect for Spider-Man taking down Wilson Fisk. Jonah shuts this guy down really fast because, as we all know, Spider-Man is a menace.
I love that he just shouts all the fucking catchphrases.
I know. It's like he's just there for fan service, and I love it.
Right.
At the precinct, Spider-Man meets Yuri on the rooftop. He asks, "Hey, why'd you call? Did you need a date to the policeman's ball?" And Yuri looks at him and asks, "Why, you got a black and white suit?"
Ooh, now that's some foreshadowing.
Yuri, in the next game, you will be handled. Mama, give it a minute. Yuri explains that the cops had integrated some Oscorp tech into their surveillance systems, and she needs Spider-Man's help getting the signal towers back up and running. This becomes a side quest in going to all the surveillance towers and doing a small task to get the towers back online. Interestingly, as Spider-Man updates the towers, he's able to see more crimes happening nearby in the city. These usually appear as random encounters on Spider-Man's map, often a handful of random assholes doing violent crime unnecessarily that Spider-Man can beat the shit out of, but obviously never kill.
Ever kill. Even if you throw him off a building.
These towers can also help Spider-Man find other collectibles on the map, like backpacks he's got hidden around the city.
Honestly, his backpack budget is insane.
How many backpacks he's got hidden all over the city?
Holy shit, man. You have spent so much money on backpacks.
He's got a JanSport partnership. After swinging through the city for a bit, Spider-Man gets a rip across his chest. He's concerned because he doesn't want anyone in the city taking pictures of his 3 chest hairs, so he heads back up to the lab to work on his suit. He's sensitive about his 3 chest hairs.
As he should be.
Peter Parker heads into Otto's lab and calls out, but no one's home. It's empty, which is perfect for Spider-Man shit. He lays out his Spider-Man suit and starts to assess the damage when Otto walks in, carrying takeout. Otto sees the suit, he sees Peter, he looks back and forth between the two and realizes out loud, this kid is special. He's the one, he's Spider-Man's tech guy.
Just barely misses the point.
So close, dude. Peter's a bit surprised, and then clearly relieved that Otto didn't assume he was Spider-Man, and lets Otto believe he's just helping the web-slinger, being the guy in the chair rather than correct him and tells him he's actually the guy in the suit.
Right.
Otto gives him space and lets him work with the unspoken agreement that he will keep Peter's secret. Peter works through the night and falls asleep at the lab. In the morning, he wakes up in the lab with a post-it on his face from Otto, saying to check his email. Otto's been thinking about how Peter has been moonlighting as Spider-Man's suit guy, and he sent over some notes of his own, including a layout for a new spider suit, the advanced suit.
Oh my gosh, having Otto Octavius help design the spider suit is insane.
It's so crazy.
I love it.
Throughout the game, certain achievements can unlock more spider suits for Peter. There's animated ones, there's an homage to Sam Raimi's perfect Spider-Man trilogy, and in New Game Plus, he can even swing around in a mask in his underoos. Although that suit does expose Peter's 3 chest hairs, and we know he's sensitive about that. For now, Spider-Man debuts his new suit with the new features that Otto Octavius dreamed up. While he's doing that, Spider-Man catches up with Yuri and heads to a Fisk construction site she's worried about. While Fisk is in jail, his business hasn't stopped, and there's definitely something strange going on with his team. This construction site is crawling with armed assholes that Spider-Man kicks off the 30-story building non-lethally. Alright, I've bitched about this enough. So canonically, Spider-Man doesn't like to kill. So there is an animation you can catch where if Spider-Man kicks someone off of a building, he web slings them to the side of the building. But like, he's absolutely still killing people because concussions are real.
Right? Like, honestly, you beat people to like within an inch of their life at the very least.
Absolutely. And I love kicking people off buildings. There's no way the web doesn't like dissolve and break down and they just tumble.
Right, they're still stuck up 28 stories. How did they get down?
If they're upside down, the blood's gonna all rush and they're just gonna pass out and die. Come on! Be so fucking for real and let him just accrue a body count.
Right.
Waves of armed assholes come out on this construction site in the sky, and Spider-Man makes quick work of them, even the ones that have grenades. Spider-Man tells Yuri her hunch was right. There were a ton of armed assholes here, but he's handled it. With the commotion, a civilian ended up calling the cops so she can legally send out reinforcements to clean up after Spider-Man's mess. Yuri warns Spider-Man that there's a lot of other compounds just like this to keep an eye out for, which really just sets up another ongoing side quest chain. While he's out gallivanting, Peter gets a call from his landlord about eviction proceedings. Peter can't really argue because, well, he can't really pay and is defeated to hear that he's going to lose his home at the end of the week.
Rent.
Unfortunately, despite his landlord being a criminal, Spider-Man spares him and goes back to fighting some asshole who's robbing a liquor store. Peter gets a call from a guy named Martin Lee. Martin Lee has been organizing a party for Aunt May, and the party got delayed, but they're ready for Peter now. Peter is committed to swinging by, so as he heads over to Feast, a community resource center that stands for Food, Emergency Aid, Shelter, and Training, Peter is very excited.
Good use of swinging by.
Oh, yeah, she's a writer. Peter lands on the roof of Feast, swaps himself into street clothes, and heads inside to the shelter. There are a ton of displaced New Yorkers inside. One wall is a bunch of photos of Feast volunteers that are actually photos of the developers of the game.
Oh, I love when they do that.
When they just are like, hidden in plain sight, here's everyone who made this happen.
Totally.
Near the cafeteria of the facility is Mr. Martin Lee. Martin Lee is a Chinese billionaire who made his money in the shipping and trade industry, but now largely spends his days as a philanthropist. He founded Feast in New York's Chinatown as a resource for the community and had hired May Parker to help oversee operations. Martin Lee is played by Stephen O. Young, who was the first person brought in to audition for Martin Lee.
Wow.
He came to the audition in a full, crisp black suit and absolutely scared the shit out of Team Insomniac. So much so to the point that Team was like, yeah, that's him. We're good. One and done.
This dude's Yakuza as
Yeah.
fuck.
Here at Feast, Peter comes down on Martin Lee in a white button-up and tie, and Martin asks Peter to distract May for a few minutes while they get set up. Peter goes straight for Aunt May, who is an older, warm lady. She has the glow of a woman who leads with her heart and truly cares about the people around her. Peter tells Aunt May that, hey, he wants to talk, and she jumps into asking if he needs money. He says no, he doesn't need money, technically. Then she asks if it's girl trouble, and tells him that he and MJ would make some beautiful babies. Peter screams.
He literally screams.
Yeah, he's just like, ah! I'm overwhelmed!
He faced down Kingpin earlier, and this question is making him scream.
I love that for him. While Peter has a full mental breakdown, Martin Lee and the other volunteers roll out a cake, celebrating Aunt May's 5 years of service to Feast.
Oh.
They clap and thank her for her work. The team eat their cake, and Peter thanks Martin Lee for helping throw a party for Aunt May. As Aunt May says, when you help someone, you help everyone.
That's true.
Peter ducks out early, though, as he gets a voicemail from Yuri. After sneaking out via the rooftop, Spider-Man checks his voicemail to hear Yuri telling him that a silent alarm was tripped at the auction house where Fist's estate sale was happening. Spider-Man swings straight there, wondering what the Kingpin had hidden in his closet. When he arrives, he goes through the vents to see a bunch of masked arm assholes holding the manager of the auction house at gunpoint, asking for files. These armed assholes are wearing black and white carved masks. Spider-Man warns Yuri the alarm was right, and there's guys with guns holding someone at hostage, and they're clearly doing a heist right now. Yuri copies and asks Spider-Man to keep the situation from getting worse while she deploys backup. Spider-Man goes to the auction house silently, taking out the masked gunmen. They're nothing like Fist's assholes. These guys are all in black and white suits with button-ups and higher-end weaponry. And selfishly to metagame for a moment, the subtitles immediately do call these assholes demons.
Okay, the demons. Honestly, this whole section, because like a lot of this is just tutorial, like in terms of the gameplay kind of shit, like so far. I don't love stealth in games, but the stealth in Spider-Man is so satisfying.
You do hate stealth games, but it truly feels so good to knock them out one by one and be like, yeah, I'm clearing the board.
Fully.
The demons are screaming at their hostage, the manager, for the files, and she insists there's someone else here, someone who must have taken the file, but they can't find anyone else on site. In a back room, Spider-Man finds a camera and thinks it looks familiar. He's interrupted by a demon holding a gun on him. As Spider-Man turns to face him, the demon is knocked unconscious. As his body crumbles to the floor, the gap in his silhouette reveals Mary Jane Watson.
What?
Spider-Man is relieved and asks her what she's doing here, and she says she's working. Come on. He hands her back her camera and asks if she's covering a break-in for the Daily Bugle. And she says, well, in all fairness, it wasn't a break-in until a few minutes ago.
So I followed.
He asks her to elaborate, please. And the perspective shifts to Mary Jane, entering the Wilson Fisk collection just a few minutes ago. She meets with the auction house manager who lets MJ in after hours to take photos and report on the estate sale for the Daily Bugle. Mary Jane explores the estate sale, all these artifacts that were seized after Fisk's arrest, all on display and set to be auctioned off. Many are priceless works of art, including a tapestry from the 17th century. Some are artifacts from Simicaria, a country known for civil wars and hand-rolled cigars. Some are actual weapons, like a sword that Fisk used on Spider-Man personally, and she's like, oh shit. MJ asks about Fisk's activities, and the manager shuts this down, protecting Fisk's privacy and handling all of his artifacts. The manager leaves to take a call, and MJ recognizes a specific statue she wanted to get a better look at. But as she lays eyes on it, the manager ushers MJ out, politely demanding that she leave right now. MJ asks to use the bathroom, but hides and sneaks around to get into the room with that statue to investigate. MJ thinks that statue could be really important, and if it's what she thinks it is, it could be huge. The manager screams at a man named Craig on the phone for his incompetence, while sneaky-ass MJ sneaks around the auction house, making it back to the statue. Once MJ is alone with the statue, she puts eyes on it and recognizes it as the statue that Fisk used to hide evidence.
Oh.
Peter told her about this one before. The statue had to be moved around to unlock something, so MJ fucks with it for a bit, moving arms around until it unlocks a secret compartment in the base of the statue. Inside the secret compartment is a file marked Norman Osborn and the words, Devil's Breath. MJ doesn't have time to look through before a group of demons come bursting in with guns in all black suits with white shirts. They demand to know where the statue is, and MJ slips away with the file. This catches up with MJ and Spider-Man in the present, and MJ tells him that they want this file, but she can't get out with all these guys around. Spider-Man tells her he'll clear the path for her and to get away when she can. She says, deal. Good seeing you again. And we're Spider-Man again.
How did you feel during the MJ sections of this game?
All right, they're slow. You don't get to shoot anyone in the dick.
No.
You can't throw things. You can't fly.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are a little let down by this sequence.
It's so hard to be holding at a consistent 65 and then take a hard turn into a 15 zone, you know?
Yeah, totally. You go from superhero to absolutely nothing super about this person at all.
Then a journalist. And you're like, oh, that's right. She has a degree in the humanitarian arts. Oh, no.
She takes a mean picture.
Yeah. Spider-Man wonders, did she change her perfume? And then he snaps back into action and takes out all the demons. MJ calls Spider-Man to keep him in the loop and tell him that Fisk was hired to build a secret research lab for something called Devil's Breath. It's unclear what Devil's Breath is, but it scared Fisk, and the note said it was like a Pandora's box. Spider-Man knows Fisk doesn't scare easy, so this shit must be serious. A demon finds MJ, punches her in the back of the neck.
Oh my god.
And grabs the file. Spider-Man rushes in and beats up the guy who punched his girlie, but unfortunately, one of them did get away with the file. Spider-Man manages to pick up one of the demon masks so he can check it out later. The cops come soon after, and Spider-Man ducks out. He manages to text MJ right after and asks if she wants to grab something to eat at their local neighborhood diner. You know, a little post-trauma treat.
Right.
At the diner, Peter and MJ sit and catch up. MJ is still writing for the Daily Bugle. Peter's on the cusp of something really big with Dr. Octavius. MJ reminds him that one call and he could be working for Oscorp, but Peter shuts that down. They share what they consider to be the best French fries in town. MJ, ever the investigative reporter, hits Peter with the hard questions. She asks Peter, so why did you ask me here?
She can pick up on bullshit from a mile away.
He tells her it's just a dinner between friends. And she says, friends, is that what we are? Please define.
God.
They dance around it, seeing how they can identify with what they are at this point. They've been broken up for 6 months and hadn't seen each other until tonight, so the room is tense.
Oh, damn. Oh, fuck, that's painful.
That's gonna get worse. MJ asks, do you remember why we broke up?
Oh, lordy. Okay.
Peter asks if this is a trick question. A cop car flies by, lights and sirens blaring, and MJ says, all right, you're saved by the siren. Go. Peter rushes out of the diner directly into oncoming traffic, ready to jump back into Spider-Man at a moment's notice. MJ giggles to herself, seeing her ex ever committed to the city, if not fully committed to her. She leaves money on the counter and gets up from the booth. The diner owner, a small, older man with gray hair and glasses, tells her,
love seeing you two together again. You always were my favorites.
MJ nods to the man, the legend, Stan Lee, as she leaves.
Oh, just before we lost him, too.
Yeah. Stan Lee passed away at the age of 95 about 2 months after the release of this game.
Really? It was that? Oh, shit. Then that was freshly painful for some people that were playing that.
Most people, I definitely felt things and was not ready for it.
Oh,
that
wow.
sucked.
Yeah, definitely. Well, shit. He was a fucking legend.
Stan Lee recorded his line alone after taking a few photos to scan him into the game from Insomniac, and not a lot of people were even on site that day. A production team member actually secretly told Yuri Lowenthal that Stan was coming in on a day that Yuri wasn't filming. So Yuri made an excuse to show up on set specifically to meet Stan Lee and introduce himself as Spider-Man.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was the only time they met during production.
Oh, goodness. That is just devastating, too, to lose him right after that.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. It's so bad.
But being 95 years old and leaving behind the legacy that he had is unfucking paralleled.
His work made a lot of people happy, and that is more than a lot of people can say.
Yeah, definitely.
Spider-Man swings back into action in the city, and as he does, he's reunited with an old friend. Shocker. That's where you take 2 fingers and...
Oh my god. No Dane Cook.
He greets him by saying, "Hi, Herman." Shocker is in a metallic suit and is robbing a store. Spider-Man chases the Shocker as he rampages across New York City. Spider-Man tells him they both know the cops have had their eyes on him, so why are you stealing this out in the open? It's a stupid move, even for you. So why do it? The Shocker simply says he's had enough. Eventually, Spider-Man webs him down to the ground while taunting him about how cool his new suit design is. Spider-Man asks to trade tips while the Shocker shakes in the spider webbing. After Shocker is in police custody, Peter and MJ chat on the phone. MJ asks about the demon mask that Spider-Man grabbed, and he said he's going to ask Mr. Lee about it, since Mr. Lee has an art history degree and would know about artifacts like this. He heads off to the Feast Center to follow up on his lead. At Feast, Peter walks into Martin Lee's office saying he's doing a favor for a reporter friend looking into an artifact. Martin Lee is immediately excited when he gets to use his art history degree. As anyone with an art history degree would be. Excited, Martin Lee asks to see what Peter has, and he picks up the mask. He says it's a replica of an antique Chinese opera mask, and he's intrigued because he hasn't seen one in years. He says the symbol on the inside translates to demon. When he was a child, Martin Lee's father read him ghost stories with that mask and that symbol. He warns Peter that the mask means trouble, and he tells Peter to tell MJ to back off because this could be dangerous. Peter calls MJ to give her a heads up and that Mr. Lee advises MJ should drop it, and she says, "Haha, fat chance. Okay, demons, catchy name. See you soon." And she just hangs up, running into oblivion.
I've got a scoop.
Peter's like, "Okay, well, that went well." He's so millennial coded. Back on the street, he emerges as Spider-Man, where Aunt May calls him. She says that Mr. Lee came in very worried about Peter because of that mask, and she warns him to be careful. She also asks if Peter and MJ are getting back together. He reassures her that they're talking, but we've literally had like 2 conversations, so please calm down. Aunt May tells him that Mr. Lee really likes him. And they're both orphans that work hard. They should be friends. Because they have 2 things in common.
Right.
They hang up, and Otto calls Peter, telling him to get to work. Peter's chronically late, and that shit is getting really old. Peter rushes to work and runs in to find Otto working with an amputee who's being outfitted with a mechanical arm.
Oh, wow.
The young man with the robot arm asks, "So how does it work?" Otto gently tells him that it's just like a regular arm. Just think about what you want it to do, and it does it. The amputee picks up a cup with a robotic arm and is delighted. Just then, city officials come in and declare the site is a safety hazard, and they start packing up and removing equipment.
The fuck?
Otto tells them to stop, and he's calling the mayor's office immediately. Just then, a man with red hair and a deep green suit walks in. He raises his arms and says, "Peter Parker, how the hell are you?" Otto lays his eyes on the man and says, "Speak of the devil."
Oh.
Peter looks at him and greets him by saying, "Mr. Osborn." Jovial as ever, Norman Osborn says, "Oh, please, how long have we known each other?" "It's Mr. Mayor."
Oh, God, that is such a hard line.
He's devastating. I love it.
Oh, my God. But also to greet the child in the room, comparatively,
Yeah.
to the person who is like taking your money to build all this shit. Oh, my God. That's incredible.
It's Mr. Mayor. You fucking kidding me, dude? Otto says, "Norman, what do you think you're doing?" Norman explains that the grant Otto got had strict safety stipulations, many of which have been violated and previously excused by his team, but now they can't overlook these violations. Otto explains he's made a breakthrough and Norman ignores him. He looks at the amputee and invites him to Osborne Robotics, where his equipment will be free of charge. He invites Otto to join as well. Otto sees through his shit, Norman shutting his lab down and trying to get him to work back with him at Oscorp. Otto is seething, and Norman shifts his focus to Peter. Norman tells Peter that Harry will be back from Europe early next year, and they can start a business together. He tells him that this is opportunity knocking. Norman leaves, and Otto struggles to sit down. Peter goes to comfort him and tells him, hey, we can start over. Otto tells him there's no we, because without the grant, he can't afford to pay Peter. He tells Peter to start looking for a new job.
Oh, poor guy.
Outside, Spider-Man wonders if he can call Harry and ask Harry to talk to his dad about leaving Otto alone. Harry's been in Europe for a while now, and they haven't had a lot of communication since Harry left. Before leaving, Harry had a bunch of Oscorp research facilities all over town, and Spider-Man commits to checking the stations out, which is a series of optional minigames across the city. There's a whole fucking ton.
Yeah, basically all these things are just minigames that are like adding on.
The side quest chains, the limit does not exist. There are so fucking many.
And yet I think I did 100% it.
Jesus.
It's one of the few games I've platinumed.
And our backyard, still unpaved. Are you fucking kidding me? I hate when you admit to things on this. Because all I hear is, oh, I spent 20 hours not doing this thing I said I'd do last summer.
It was Spider-Man.
Fine. Yuri calls Spider-Man to tell him that Shocker has escaped and is committing a new robbery at a bank. A guard simply released Shocker, gave him his suit back, and is now dead.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, Yuri said the footage made it look like the guard who released him was under a trance because his eyes were glowing. Spider-Man heads out to where Shocker is committing a robbery and on the way catches MJ up on being fired essentially by their best friend's dad. And she's like, damn, that sucks. I have to go.
No, you can't stay with me.
Yeah. Spider-Man enters the bank and explains to Shocker that, hey man, robbing a bank is not good for his parole. But Shocker's not interested in chatting, so they have a fun boss battle in a crumbling bank arena.
Oh, it's so good.
I really love this set piece. While Spider-Man is quipping at Shocker, Shocker tells him that he has to do this. There's no other choice. And if he talks, he's dead. He also constantly tells Spider-Man to stop talking and shut the fuck up. Shocker lets slip something about men in masks who need money. As soon as the job is done, he'll be gone. Spider-Man is curious about the mask guys, but is also distracted by kicking the shit out of Shocker. Spider-Man drops a load-bearing pillar on Shocker's head.
Oh my god.
And ends the battle, wondering why these demons are everywhere all of a sudden.
Shocker doesn't have, like, super strength or anything. He has just, like...
No, he has, like, gambling debt.
Yeah, holy shit. That's really dangerous.
It's fine. It's lower level. It's cool.
He's D tier.
Spider-Man calls Yuri to update her on Shocker, and she asks, how much damage did you do in the bank?
All of it.
Which he gracefully does not answer. Spider-Man asks about any activity with the demons, and she says, well, yeah, there are reports of demons hitting Fisk properties, including one recently with demon activity at a shipyard nearby. Yuri sends a cop out to meet Spider-Man to help out, and he's named Jefferson Davis. Yuri assures Spider-Man that Officer Davis is a good cop working the Fisk case and knows all about the shipyard. Spider-Man gets there before Officer Davis and is down by the shipyard and comes up on a bunch of Fisk's armed assholes guarding the shipyard. Their head armed asshole says that they have direct orders from Fisk to keep the demons from the cache in the shipyard. Everyone is armed to the teeth. There's lots of snipers, heavy artillery, lots of guns. Spider-Man has no idea what's there, but he knows it must be important enough to keep it away from both Fisk and the demons. And while he's here, he might as well kill some time before Officer Davis gets here, so Spider-Man concusses about all the Fisk guys and maims the rest.
He's gonna kill some time, but not anybody.
Yeah. He definitely drowned a couple.
I know.
As Spider-Man is ruining people's lives and bodies, he does overhear some of them talking about a tunnel that they're trying to seal, and about wiring a vault. Eventually, after he takes them out one by one, Officer Davis shows up just in time to skip the fighting. He comes prepared, though. Officer Davis brought an official warrant to the shipyard just to keep things above the books.
Okay, good.
And he tells Spider-Man that his son is a big fan of his work, which is a little condescending. Like, oh, my child thinks you're cool.
Right. I mean, he's coming from a cop. The cops are kind of anti-vigilante. I get it.
But definitely benefit from their work.
Yeah.
The two go into the shipyard building, a large warehouse on the wharf. The building is mostly dark and empty, and seemingly left unused, so why was it so heavily guarded? Spider-Man calls it anticlimactic. Officer Davis says this shipyard was used by bootleggers back in the day, and Spider-Man knows those guys love their secret doors. Together, they find a trapdoor that opens up into an old bootlegging tunnel. They go down into it where the tunnel is collapsed, and there's a huge chunk of concrete that's fallen through and has smashed up the pathway. Officer Davis belly crawls through while Spider-Man spiders around, clearing the path. While they're under the tunnel, the ground shakes. Officer Davis thinks it might be a train, but then they both realize it's explosives and the demons are here.
Oh, shit.
On the other side of the tunnel, Spider-Man and Officer Davis are in an armory, but it's empty. All the weaponry has been stolen already, and they catch the demons in the act of loading up the weapons into their trucks. 2 full trucks of weapons start to pull away when Spider-Man and Officer Davis come out and tell them to stop. That doesn't work.
Just yelling stop didn't work?
Yeah.
Shit.
One truck makes it away clean and clear. The other truck unloads more demons onto the battleground. And these demons are in their same full black suit and mask uniform, but their weaponry is intense. They have these amplified cattle prods and explosives. That's fucking wild. Officer Davis shoots while Spider-Man swings into action, taking out as many demons as possible. A wave of demon reinforcements show up to the shipyard for Spider-Man and Officer Davis, and Officer Davis is fearless in battle, shooting as much as he can while alerting Spider-Man whenever he's opening fire, which is very helpful to be like, I'm firing bullets, please don't run in front of them.
But also, he is not afraid to kill a motherfucker.
That's a different podcast. The truck full of guns takes off as Officer Davis pins a demon to the ground. He tells Spider-Man to go, so Spider-Man chases after the truck full of guns. Spider-Man lands on the truck and one by one throws the demons out of the back of the truck. He eventually disarms the driver, who crashes into a large big rig carrying gasoline.
Oh my god.
The big rig crashes over a subway train route, and Spider-Man is left to pull the big rig out of the subway. As he's single-handedly pulling the truck to safety, the demon truck drives up, aiming directly for Spider-Man and the full big rig of gasoline.
Oh shit.
Spider-Man's mask eyes go wide as he realizes he's about to explode when a cop car flies in and T-bones the demon's truck.
Oh shit, yeah.
It's Officer Davis, who crawls out of the wreckage and punches down the demon. It's so fucking cool. A group of civilians gather, applauding Officer Davis's bravery in saving Spider-Man and the city from an explosion. A news van arrives soon along with medical help for Officer Davis, who is reported to only have minor injuries. He's fine. Spider-Man sits on an ambulance and sees MJ. MJ's on the city beat now and can cover stories like this, which is really cool for her career. She goes straight to Officer Davis to get a quote for the story and joins him in the ambulance to get his story for the Daily Bugle.
Oh my god. So invasive.
He's like, fine, come along, I'm concussed. Like, who gives a shit? Spider-Man is impressed MJ finessed her way into an ambulance to get the scoop on Officer Davis.
Yeah.
And decides to head home and get some sleep. Back at Peter's shitty apartment, though, the locks are changed.
Oh.
He shoulders his way into the studio, seeing the apartment is completely empty. The eviction notice hangs on his door, and everything he owns is gone. Panicked, Peter runs downstairs and calls the sanitation department, asking about a trash route to hopefully find his stuff. The sanitation department tells him which truck took the trash from his building's dumpster and tells him it's already back on its route. Mid-call, he swaps to Spider-Man and flies off looking for the garbage truck, holding all of his earthly possessions. He doesn't really care about anything else aside from his Spider-Man drive. It has all his research on being Spider-Man, all his suits, all his tech, everything he's worked on since high school. Spider-Man flies over West Chinatown looking for the truck that holds all of his stuff. He searches way more garbage trucks than I would ever be comfortable digging through for anything I own.
Seriously.
But that's a read on me, I think. He gets to a truck parked at the incinerator. There is an active assault happening when he shows up, but Spider-Man takes care of it. The worker he saved is thankful and lets Spider-Man search his garbage truck. And Spider-Man actually manages to find his spider drive.
Oh, hell yeah.
It is the only thing he recovers from the dumpster dive, which I think is weird. Grab a shirt or something.
Put an air tag on it, too.
Yeah, and honestly, he's just so the epitome of the meme of the single guy apartment with a fold-out chair and a mattress on the floor. Like, he's like, I don't know anything, that's fine.
I see nothing wrong with this picture.
Newly homeless, Spider-Man figures he could see if he could crash at MJ's apartment. They've talked for the first time in 6 months this week, and maybe she'll be, super forgiving now that he's couch surfing. Spider-Man plays around with what he'll say, and then he just gives up. He figures she's busy with work anyway. She just published her story on Officer Davis, and yeah, she's probably celebrating or doing literally anything except for housing her unhoused ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, right.
Then he gets a voicemail from someone else. Someone he hasn't talked to in a long time. It's Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat.
I've always loved this character in Spider-Man's lore.
She's hot, she's flirty, and she teases Spider-Man, telling him to come and find her.
Oh, we are missing her in the movies. We need this character in the movies so desperately.
1,000%. This kicks off another side quest chain of finding murals of Black Cat around the city, leading to finding Black Cat herself. Lore-wise, she's usually a thief, and she did have a fling with Spider-Man in the past, but they're simply not compatible, and they both know it, but oh, goddamn, they have spicy chemistry.
Oh, they so do, right?
Aunt May calls Spider-Man and asks where he is, since they had plans to have dinner, and she literally talked to him about it several times, so what the fuck? Spider-Man apologizes, saying, oh, he's had a bad day. The lab lost funding, and he got evicted. She tells him to come sleep in her couch in her office at Feast, and he's like, yeah, fine.
Oh my god.
That's all I got right now, I guess.
She literally invited him to come stay at her shelter.
She's like, you need the resources, actually. I would know. I'm hanging out with these people all day. You're in the same boat, buddy. Come over.
Not inviting him to stay at her place.
No.
No. Stay on my couch in my office. Oof.
That's rough.
Pete,
pretty
make
bad.
some friends. Holy shit.
On his way to the shelter, MJ calls Peter to let him know that there's a serious turf war between Fisk and the demons. With Wilson Fisk behind bars, the demons are moving in on his territories and looting all his safe houses. Even Shocker got roped into running jobs for the demons. It's fucking crazy out here. Peter gets to Feast and realizes he hasn't slept since Wilson Fisk got arrested, which was a long time ago, relatively. And he runs upstairs to Aunt May's office and completely crashes out. Peter wakes up the next morning to Aunt May working in her office at her computer, a hot cup of coffee, and an envelope full of cash from Aunt May.
Oh.
He tries to tell her no, but she tells him he has to take the money. He has to accept that he's human, just like the rest of us. Mr. Lee interrupts and says, he'll be out of town for a while. Not sure how long. But Aunt May is in charge while he's gone. It's just some personal business. He asks that Aunt May take care of this place as it represents the best part of himself. Peter hopes Mr. Lee's okay because I felt a little dramatic if we're being super real right now. MJ calls Peter and asks if he saw her story. She says it went a little viral, and now Mr. Osborn says he's going to give an award to Officer Davis at his rally today. She invites Peter to join her at the rally to cover the story. This is huge for her career. I love this for her.
No, we are watching her career just skyrocket right before our eyes.
Hell yeah.
And it took her having to kind of dump Peter to do it. So she could focus on her career for a minute.
Oh no, she's not stigmatized anymore and can focus on herself.
Yeah, she doesn't have to be his girl in the chair. She can just be her.
She can just be her. She can just be her is crazy. Yeah. I love that. Spider-Man leaves the shelter and gets a message from Otto. Otto's spinning up that everything happens for a reason, and it may have helped him find a breakthrough. Spider-Man is hopeful. He knows Otto's work is really important. Officer Davis calls, and Spider-Man congratulates him on the ceremony today. Officer Davis says he's more scared of public speaking than of demons. But anyway, there's demons moving in on... It's like, I hate crowds. But he does give Spider-Man a heads up that there's demons moving in on a Fisk construction site in Midtown. And he can't go because he's receiving an award in front of the city right now. Can you help, please?
Yeah, right. I'm going to be a little busy.
Yeah. Spider-Man agrees to go and check it out and wishes him well. At the Fisk construction site, Spider-Man sees a consolidated shipping truck and a lot of demons moving in on Fist's territory. Spider-Man recognizes that name, Consolidated Shipping, but doesn't remember right now because of plot reasons. The demons are already here, and they've beat up Fisk employees, leaving their bodies strewn around. Spider-Man catches about 6 demons holding one Fisk asshole at gunpoint, who tells them, "You got what you came for, you don't need to kill us." The demon holds a gun to his head and says, "Fisk's territory is ours now." Spider-Man saves the hostage and knocks out all the demons. A phone rings on an unconscious Fisk asshole, and Spider-Man answers. It's a FaceTime from Wilson Fisk, who's in a full prison jumpsuit because he's in prison. He tells Spider-Man to stay out of his business. Spider-Man asks who the leader of the demons is, and Wilson Fisk says he might tell him if he keeps his men alive. He's a good negotiator.
He really is, actually. But also, you know that Spider-Man's not going to kill anybody.
Yeah, so there's that. More waves of demons come in, including a helicopter full of demons that circle the building. Spider-Man takes out the demons and heads to the roof where the helicopter is landing. He sees a few demons in the helicopter, and then the helicopter takes off, and with it, scaffolding from the construction site begins to fall. Cranes start to demolish buildings nearby, and shit completely starts to fall apart everywhere as Spider-Man rushes to web things still to prevent damage. The helicopter takes off with a massive piece of equipment, kind of accidentally, maybe purposefully, whatever, web slung underneath it. It definitely is Spider-Man's fault, regardless of how we look at this.
Fully, he was like trying to stop the helicopter from taking off, and it just carried it off with it.
Yeah, and it's wreaking havoc in its wake. Spider-Man's webbing essentially turned the helicopter into a flying wrecking ball going through the city.
Oh, that's so good.
And on top of that, the demon in the helicopter has a rocket launcher.
Oh.
Courtesy of the latest Fisk raid at the shipyard. You recall Spider-Man says, "Hey, man, I have reports of a helicopter with a wrecking ball terrorizing the city." And Spider-Man, in all his wisdom, says, "Yeah, my bad."
Hey, at least he's honest.
Yeah, he's real loud. He's like, "I fucked that up. I'm so sorry." Spider-Man chases the helicopter through the sea of skyscrapers, watching the demolition of homes, businesses, and more happen as the helicopter flies low through the city skyline. The equipment does get dislodged from the helicopter and crashes into an office building. But the helicopter is still shooting fucking rockets at Spider-Man. Spider-Man manages to kick one demon out of the helicopter by flying directly through it and saying, "Is this the flight to Newark?"
Can't help himself.
Now, this scene was shot in slow motion to show Spider-Man gracefully floating through it, but he says this at a normal speed, implying that if this was played at normal speed, he'd go, "It's a flight to Newark!"
He has to say it so fast so they can hear it.
Yeah, it is. It's a quick scene. He kicks one demon out of the helicopter and webs him to safety, while another demon in the helicopter turns a taser sword on Spider-Man.
Taser sword, hell yeah.
Spider-Man asks, "Is this your master plan? Replace Fisk?" Spider-Man webs him to the helicopter and hears him say, "Fisk is only the beginning." Spider-Man begins to disable the helicopter engines, and the helicopter slowly starts to descend. Spider-Man webs the helicopter between 2 buildings as it falls apart in the middle of New York City. He web shoots the helicopter steadily between these 2 large buildings, leaving the helicopter suspended in webbing, like a fly caught in a spider web.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
And this is the scene that essentially was rebuilt at E3 in 2017.
Yeah.
And it was jarring to see. It was beautiful. It was like kind of twitching too, the way the helicopter twitches in the game. It was so fucking cool.
Fully. And it's like to scale.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
It was life size. It was incredible.
Spider-Man calls Yuri and tells her, "Caught the bad guys, but she'll want to bring a ladder." Whackity schmackity.
But for real, dude, like what do people do when you web this shit up so high?
Those firefighters that are really good with the big ladders get so much work in New York City.
Because I think in the lore, the spider webbing does dissolve after like a few hours.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do when you're 14 stories up? You're gonna die.
You're gonna die. That's what I'm saying.
It's a delayed death.
It's a really painful one as you start to feel your body slip off of a skyscraper.
Oh my god, right?
You're like, do I rip it out? Take the Band-Aid? It's horrible. Down on the ground, civilians look up in awe at the marvel of a helicopter being strung up through bug butt juice. I couldn't help it, I'm sorry. One of them holds a camera phone up to capture this. He's snapped out of his fascination by a text from his dad saying, Miles, where are you?
Miles?
Miles Morales brings his phone down and remembers his dad. Officer Jefferson Davis is getting a special award today at Mayor Osborn's rally downtown, and he has to go. He says goodbye to his friend and he heads out. Spider-Man perches on a ledge and calls MJ to see if the ceremony started yet. MJ says they're still setting up, and he's relieved and says he'll be there soon. Downtown at City Hall, Officer Jefferson Davis, his wife Rio Morales, and his son Miles Morales are behind the stage. Officer Davis is nervous because it sounds like there's a lot of people attending, and he hates public speaking. But Rio assures him it'll be fine. Miles tells him, "You saved Spider-Man. That makes you a superhero." Officer Davis says, "A superhero? Maybe I'm just a guy who doesn't give up."
Hell yeah, dude. I don't love a lot of cops, but I do love Jefferson Davis.
He's one of the good ones.
Yep.
He's a dad before anything.
For sure.
Mayor Osborn arrives and is flanked by cops and signs that say, "Re-elect Mayor Osborn," promising to keep the city safe. Peter is in the crowd with MJ, and they quietly talk about the gang war between Fisk and the demons. Peter is concerned about the consolidated shipping truck he saw. MJ says, well, they can grab coffee and look into it. He thinks this is a date. He offers dinner instead. He says he could come over and cook for her.
See, I see right through your bullshit, Peter.
I think he kind of sees his own bullshit too, because then he immediately walks it back and says, or we could meet at a neutral location and eat a meal cooked by professionals. You know, whatever you'd prefer. Let's put this in your court. Mayor Osborn introduces Officer Davis to the rally and offers him the Department Medal of Honor. Mayor Osborn's aide interrupts and tells him there's an urgent call, and Mayor Osborn turns to take the call. Officer Davis takes the podium to thank the mayor for the honor and says that he shares the honor with his family, his wife Rio, and his son Miles. Backstage, Mayor Osborn answers the urgent call. A man's voice tells him, "I've worked many years for this moment. Over the coming days, your company, your city, and everything you care about will be destroyed.
Oh, what?
People will beg you for help, but you won't be able to help them." Mayor Osborn silently motions to his security that the guy on the phone is a nut job. Norman laughs and says, "Okay, listen, jackass, I get threats like these twice a week. Why don't you grow a pair and tell me what you want?" The voice simply says, "To watch you suffer." Norman is scared now and brings the phone down from his ear. He looks around and his security ushers him away. In the crowd, Peter gets a spidey sense that something is wrong. Things move in slow motion and he sees people all around him glowing.
Oh, shit.
He sees a man in the distance glow. He sees another. He sees Martin Lee get out of a truck and glow silver. Some of these glowing men begin to explode. Behind Officer Davis on the stage is a man who glows silver and opens his coat to reveal he's laced with explosives. Officer Davis looks at the man, pushes him away, and covers the other people on stage with his body to keep them safe from the bomb as it blasts through the stage.
Hero.
The next moments are chaos. Miles Morales is dragged away from the stage while coming in and out of consciousness. MJ is hovering over Peter, who is completely knocked out. She sobs, telling him to say something, but Peter Parker is unresponsive. Miles gets on his feet and can't find his mom. She's run back into the chaos to find her husband. Miles runs in after her as buildings fall apart. Radio signals and car alarms blare out. Miles comes up on Rio, who's trapped under part of the stage. Miles and an EMT lift the stage to free her, and Rio cries out for her son. She hugs him tight, so scared she almost lost him and everything she has. She tells him she's going to be all right. Miles runs back in saying he's going to find Dad. Rio screams at him, "No!" but he's already gone. Miles climbs the falling signage and sees at the heart of where the stage was are bodies and blood. EMTs are trying to help people, but black sedans with armed demons roll up and begin open firing. He hears them say, "No survivors." Miles hides and climbs his way through crash cars to make it to where his father was. He knows his dad is alive, he just has to find him. The area is filled with smoke from fires, explosives, and dense from the senseless loss of life. The demons have these swords that glow silver and appear to suck the energy out of the people they attack.
Jesus.
Miles makes his way to center stage where his father was standing, but can't find the body. He picks up a loose pipe and tries to attack a demon who's too fast for Miles. The demon pulls his glowing sword on Miles, and as he goes to strike, Martin Lee's voice rings out. He tells them, "No, we have to leave now." The demons back off and follow Martin Lee away. Martin Lee's eyes glow silver, just like the swords, just like the men who exploded. Miles, spared and scared, finds his father's body. His freshly appointed medal dripping in the blood sacrificed to save others. Miles begs him to wake up. We are next at the official funeral of Officer Jefferson Davis.
Oh, jeez, that's such a smash cut.
It's a gray, rainy New York day, and Mayor Norman Osborn is holding the folded flag and hands it to the grieving widow, Rio Morales. Norman Osborn shakes Miles' hand. A fleet of helicopters fly overhead as the police department salutes over Officer Jefferson Davis's grave. Peter and MJ are speaking with Rio when Peter leaves to speak to Miles. He tells Miles he's sorry for his loss. Miles doesn't know Peter, but Peter tells him he was there at the rally. They talk about loss, and Miles is dejected by the absolute heartbreak of losing his hero, his father. Rio tells Peter she doesn't know what to do with him. Peter gets away and goes back to being Spider-Man and calls Yuri to ask if she's looking for Martin Lee yet. Yuri can't look for Mr. Lee without solid evidence, so Spider-Man has to find evidence for Martin Lee being behind the bullshit going down in the city. Spider-Man is kicking himself for thinking this is all his fault, that Miles lost his father because of this. He calls MJ to talk about how the cops can't look for Martin Lee yet, and MJ points him in the direction of a recycling center that Martin Lee bought last year. Maybe there's something there. She also claims in the police report of demons who were arrested, all the demons have claimed that Martin Lee has the power to corrupt people, something like mind control. And somehow, this admission on the record isn't enough for the cops to look to Martin Lee.
Jeez, what? How?
It's mind-boggling. I'm like, come on!
How do you charge somebody for mind control, though?
Coercion?
I guess.
Is that colluding?
I don't know.
There's something there.
There's just not a law on the books for it, so...
I don't see anything about mind control in the books.
Yeah, have at it.
So I guess it's legal? It's at least decriminalized. Spider-Man heads off to the recycling center and finds the place is crawling with demons. They're all over, even where people would potentially pull in and recycle cans. Like, they're not even letting the front be a good front. Spider-Man beats their asses and breaks into the recycling center office, which is guarded with bank-level security measures. This place was well guarded for a reason. Inside, there's maps with Osborn campaign addresses marked and lots of high-tech equipment just strewn about. They also have explosives and the guns that the demons have stolen from Fisk, which are still labeled as Fisk, which is very funny. They were like, we can't put the time in to rebrand the weaponry. Who gives a shit? They're planning some serious shit, and there's even mock-ups of full-on truck bombs. Spider-Man calls MJ and tells her that the demons are planning an attack on Mayor Osborn, and it's a violent one. Looks like they're going for his campaign offices, and he's going to head up to their staging area to stop them. On the way, Spider-Man calls Yuri to catch her up on Martin Lee's demons coming after Mayor Osborn's offices. He sends her the address for the recycling center for her to look into, and she agrees to get Mayor Osborn's offices evacuated for safety. Which, thank God. Spider-Man swings across New York City to find the demons all over a facility run by, Consolidated Shipping.
Oh, we've heard of them.
Consolidated Shipping was how Martin Lee became a billionaire, and now it's his base of operations for terrorism.
Well, would you look at that?
Crazy. The massive shipping trucks here have been rigged to be truck bombs, just like the ones he found the blueprints for at the recycling center. Spider-Man meticulously manhandles the demons into submission and goes to investigate the office for more clues. There's a map with marked bases all over the city, which, you guessed it, it's a side quest chain. It's fun for gameplay, but also implies that the demons have an army, which is fucking crazy. There's also a hefty invoice for an auto body shop in town. Might be worth looking into. Spider-Man gets out of the office and is jumped by more demons. While fighting them, he calls MJ and brags about thwarting this attack on Mayor Osborn's campaign offices. He also asks her to look into the auto body shop he saw the invoice for, and she says, yeah, I'll get back to you on that. And as a reminder, this is mid-fight.
He does carry out some really just normal conversations during combat.
While he's kicking people. While this is happening, there's a demon with these, black and white glowing hand whips that act eerily similar to tentacles that latch on and attack Spider-Man and whip him around, and he's like, oh yeah, so I found this really cool receipt, maybe you can look into it. Also, the enemy designs really escalate in a cool way. I just love how the weapons get bigger and badder, and you have to adjust your playstyle to accommodate for more technology. It's delightful.
And we opened with rocket launchers.
Yeah, the first 25 minutes, there's a fucking rocket launcher. Spider-Man kicks the shit out of the demons, leaving them passed out on the concrete. He turns to leave, and as he does, 2 agents rappel down from the roof of the building. They're in full silver and gray guard attire, including helmets, and are armed to the teeth. They walk into their commander and take the safeties off of their guns. Spider-Man is surprised to see them and says, all right, this is new. This is not the NYPD he's used to. 2 agents approach one of the demons who's on the ground. They kick the shit out of them, and one says, this one's mine, and goes to execute him. Spider-Man intervenes, kicking the agents down, saying, hey, that's not how we do things downtown, sparing the life of the demon terrorist in the process. More agents surround Spider-Man, guns drawn. They report Code SM1. More agents show up out of the shadows on the roof around the corners. Spider-Man likes context, so he says, all right, before we do this, who the hell are you guys? The agents ignore him and radio in, Code SM1, holding for orders. These guys are militant.
And I feel like this implies an SM2 somewhere.
Dun, 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 dun. There's more games in the franchise.
He's not there yet.
Shut up. The agents drop little metallic discs all around Spider-Man. A helicopter hovers over them, and Spider-Man hears one agent say, copy code SM1, I have visual. Hold for Silverbird. Hanging out of the helicopter is a white woman with silver hair, and not because she's old, but because she's a mean fashion bitch. She has a flowing gray coat and clumpy mascara. She frowns and jumps out of the helicopter while standing at Spider-Man with a gun in each hand. She does a full superhero landing, and Spider compliments it, saying, solid entrance, 8 out of 10.
Only an 8, though.
After his rating, the small discs explode with ropes that surround and lasso and trap Spider-Man. He's cocooned in ropes, and they begin to electrocute him. As the pain starts to make his vision go, Spider-Man updates his rating, saying 9 out of 10.
Still with the quips.
Behind the silver-haired woman, Yuri pulls up in a cop car. She demands that the woman let him go, and she says, he's one of us. The silver lady smirks, and the ropes fall to Spider-Man's feet. Yuri explains that the woman is Silver Sablinova, head of Sable International, a private security force, paid for by Mayor Osborn. Spider-Man asks, so the mayor has a paid army now?
Oh, goddamn Pinkertons.
Silver doesn't answer him, but does promise that next time you get in my way, I will not be so gentle. She has a European accent and small sharky eyes. Yuri tells Spider-Man to go, and he obliges. Later, Yuri calls Spider-Man to apologize for the whole Sable thing. Spider-Man tells her, it's okay, we're still best buds. Yuri corrects him, saying we are not best buds. Yuri then warns Spider-Man that Sable has the mayor's ear and unchecked authority. Her team also checked the recycling center and found plenty of evidence of a bomb plot, but nothing that definitively leads back to Martin Li, so fuck you.
Oh my god, evidence is annoying.
Spider-Man and MJ chat a bit, and she's been researching Martin Li's business locations, and Spider-Man figures he'll look into them. But for now, he's going to Feast to talk to Mr. Li and figure out why he's coming for Norman Osborn. Why he's doing terrorism.
Right.
At Feast, Peter comes in to chat with Aunt May. She puts him to work immediately, and Peter also brings up Miles Morales. He says he's the kid whose father died at City Hall, and he's having a tough time. Maybe he can volunteer at Feast? Peter gives Aunt May Miles' mom's phone number, and Aunt May promises to give her a call about Miles volunteering. Peter goes around the Feast building under the guise of helping out, but really sneaks into Martin Li's office by web-slinging into vents while he's wearing jeans and a flannel. Not very sneaky, buddy.
No, not even remotely. You were clinging to ceilings where there's a lot of people.
And cameras, dude.
Yeah.
Mr. Li's office was a shrine to his parents. There are pictures of them everywhere, and Peter had always heard a story that Martin Li was abandoned by his parents, so he wonders, why build a shrine to the people who threw you away?
Right.
The answer is video game logic, because the shrine is hiding a puzzle to a secret room.
There it is.
The secret room is an additional shrine with more additional secrets. It's mostly bare, but there are demon masks and weapons, including a sword glowing with white and black shadows, just like the one Spider-Man had seen in his demon battles so far. There's a tape recording where Martin Li documents himself talking about feeling his power growing, feeding off of his anger. Martin Li had some power, and he's been using it to build and empower his army of demons. The recording concludes with Martin Li saying, The only way to fight a monster is to become one.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's so dramatic. There's a framed picture of Martin Lee's parents in black and white, but through a negative filter, like a negative effect over two happy people. There's a full Pepe Silva wall of articles about Mayor Osborn, documenting his entire career. There's newspaper clippings and reports about how Oscorp lost a lawsuit about improper clinical trials years ago. And Peter realized he'd never heard about this one. He figures it must have been covered up. Then Peter finds the big one.
The big one!
The folder MJ found at the auction house that the demons stole. It has documents on something called Devil's Breath. Under the secret room, Peter finds a door which leads back out to the feast center. He steps out, and immediately as he walks out, there's Martin Lee.
Hey, there he is.
Peter is shocked to see him. He tells him, I thought you were out of town. Martin Lee asks if Peter found what he was looking for. Aunt May, thank God, interrupts and hands a box to Peter. Martin Lee tells her, he's just in town to pick up something and he'll be out soon. Aunt May asks if he's heard about what happened at City Hall. And Martin Lee looks them in the eyes and says, it's tragic. You did it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, he's like, well, that both can be correct.
Yeah, he didn't lie.
Peter tells him that, the bombers are still out there. And Martin Lee tells him that, he and Aunt May should be safe as long as they're not in places they're not supposed to be.
Oh my God, you're just admitting guilt at that point.
And then Martin Lee just walks away.
Oh my Lord.
Peter heads out of feast and sees Martin Lee entering a car. As he does, 4 demons, all glowing silver, jump Peter, who does his best to politely fight them as he's in his street clothes on the feet of his aunt's fucking place of business. It's bad.
No, fully.
After he quietly kicks the shit out of 4 men, he returns to his Spider-Man suit. As Spider-Man, he calls Yuri and tells her to go to Martin Lee's office at the Feast Center and to look for information on Devil's Breath. It's a substance created by Oscorp, and it's probably a bioweapon. Yuri promises to go. Spider-Man calls MJ to update her, and she's whispering, telling him, hey, we can talk later, come over and we can have dinner, but I can't talk right now.
Oh, that's always a good sign.
And Spider-Man promises to cook, because he's not perturbed by this.
Oh my gosh, dude, you have a spider sense.
But no girl's sense.
Take a fucking hint.
Before he lets her go, he tells her that he saw Martin Lee's powers in action. He was jumped by 4 perfectly nice unhoused people who had glowing eyes and raging aggression. Then they hang up. Spider-Man's phone is blowing up right now, and he gets one more call. And it's from Otto, who's excited to show something to Peter and tells him to come to the lab immediately because there's been a huge breakthrough.
How?
He's like, I got no money, but we're going to make this shit happen. At the lab, Peter goes to see Dr. Otto Octavius and sees the lab is full of new equipment. And Peter's in shock at all this new stuff. Otto tells him, I called in every last favor to fund this project. And he tells Peter that they've been looking at prosthetics the wrong way this whole time. Why make people the same as they once were when we can make them better?
Oh no.
Harder, faster, stronger.
Oh, that's never a good direction to go, my dude.
Otto shows Peter a demonstration of the robotic arm they had been working on, and it's fully articulating. It stretches and moves like a human arm, but as Otto goes to have it pick up a mug, he's unable to control it. The arm drops the mug, and Otto throws his equipment, saying, "This is all your fault, Norman." Peter says, well, I know who you're not voting for in the next election.
Blaming somebody who's not even there.
Not even there. Otto apologizes for his reaction, and Peter promises to clean up and get ready for another test while Otto resets. While he's doing this, Peter's like, so, what's up with you and Norman? And Otto explains that he and Norman were lab partners in college and both started a business.
Oh.
Otto is half the reason it's called Oscorp. In grad school, the two of them were called the O's. As Norman became more and more obsessed with genetics, he started a project Otto felt was unethical. Otto chose to leave in exchange for a settlement, but the money didn't last long.
I'm sorry, is he claiming that he is part of the Oz in Oscorp?
Yeah, because like, OS Corp, Oscorp.
Oh, he got fully fucking duped on that
He
one.
He fully did!
Dude, that had nothing to do with you.
But it kept him at bay while Norman could take everything.
If it had to do with your nickname, it would have been called Oscorp.
Oscorp? Peter goes and does some science shit, and they're able to get the robotic arm working to pick up the mug. Otto is impressed and grateful, and Peter commits to continuing the work, even if Otto can't pay him. Peter looks around the lab and finds a map of the raft, and Otto explains that the Supermax prison is soliciting bids to modernize their security grid, and Otto figures he'll swing for the contract. That's a perfectly normal reason why Otto has a full blueprint map of the raft.
Fully.
Nothing nefarious at all.
Not even a little bit.
There's a wall of 3D printers with defensive armor that Otto's working on, and it's all fine and above the books.
How have you developed so much without an assistant, one?
Or money.
Or money.
I don't know. Just bootstrapping. I don't think I really know what bootstrapping is, but I think this is supposed to be bootstrapping.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. Peter leaves the lab because he has a lot of Spider-Man shit to do, and Otto continues to work on the prosthetic arm. Spider-Man calls MJ to confirm dinner tonight at her place, and he reiterates that he's going to cook for her. And MJ says, well, I love to take risks. So, not a great reaction, but they're on for tonight. Peter gets to MJ's apartment, and she's so excited, and she jumps into it. She tells him, you know that address you gave me for the car shop you found the invoice for at the demon hideout? I went there. Peter rolls his eyes at her, but MJ is like, well, obviously I'm fine. I'm not dead. I'm here. She tells the story of what she saw, and the player begins to control MJ again for another infamous MJ mission.
Yay.
We see MJ at a full chop stop for bikers crawling with thugs. MJ hears one ask about how Martin Lee is paying off the boss. They're building something huge and beefy, and she needs to figure out what it is. Through a round of sneaky sneaks, MJ makes her way up to the office just as Tombstone appears. And you know what? It's reasonable. This is his shop, and oh, plot twist, he's fucking gigantic.
Oh, right.
Tombstone is historically a crime boss who is built like crazy. He's huge and tall and big, but at one point he interacted with weird gas that caused a mutation to make him even more powerful. He's beating one of his men for trying to skim Martin Lee's order, and Tombstone won't allow for that. He calls the guy a disappointment before stomping his face in with his big-ass feet. The surviving guys pull the corpse away as Tombstone continues working on a bike. MJ makes her way into his office and finds blueprints for an armored vehicle. Back at her apartment, Peter gives MJ some spider tech to protect herself for, the next time she gets up to some shit she should not be up in. Peter's cooking some chicken curry while MJ updates him on her adventure. Peter updates her on his adventure and how Norman Osborn is involved and Devil's Breath, whatever that is. MJ asks Peter, well, what if we teamed up? And he asks, do you want to be Spider-Girl? And she says, no, dipshit, not like that. Not a sidekick, a partner. The kitchen fills with smoke and Peter runs to the stovetop. Peter's crime tracker goes off, showing that the Oscorp CFO's house is being broken into. Before MJ can even finish her thought, Peter has changed into Spider-Man. She's annoyed he's leaving his street clothes on the floor, and he politely puts them on the couch and dives out the window. On the way to the CFO's apartment, Spider-Man calls MJ, who says the curry he made is actually good. Spider-Man figures, okay, that's great. Anyway, if Lee's after the CFO, it's got to do with Devil's Breath, right? MJ asks, hey, are we partners now? And Spider-Man agrees, yes, MJ, we're partners. At the CFO's apartment, Spider-Man sees a security guard who is shot. The security guard tells Spider-Man that the demons forced the CFO up to his apartment, and he's in big trouble. A fleet of demons jump Spider-Man immediately, and Spider-Man can't take the elevator up to the penthouse because it'll obviously alert the demons, so he opts to wall run up the elevator shaft.
Oh my goodness.
Now this sequence has elevator doors opening with demons peering down and shooting at them, and Spider-Man has to yank them out, throw them down the elevator shaft. It's a whole thing. But it did have a little echo of that similar scene in Wolfenstein: The New Order, climbing the wall, taking care of enemies with guns who are trying to kill you and popping out.
Oh, so good.
It's such a good sequence in both games, which I really appreciated. At the very top, Spider-Man climbs through vents and gets into the CFO's apartment. It's a gorgeous multi-story home with a lot of pretentious art. The CFO is being held at gunpoint and is forced to log into his work computer. Spider-Man handles the demons patrolling the property until a wave of demon swordsmen enters. They use a super-powered glowing sword, which destroys the ground. It's like it deploys an acidic energy when they swing their swords, destroying the ground and the world with them. After this wave, Spider-Man goes to the CFO, who says that the demons were after financial records. Spider-Man asks if it's about Devil's Breath, and the CFO asks, how would he know about that? He doesn't even know what it is, and Norman keeps the whole project a secret. The CFO is the only person in the company who even has a record of it. Spider-Man looks at the CFO's computer and sees the demons extracted payroll information, including some records on a Dr. Isaac Delaney. Spider-Man asks who that is, and the CFO is like, again, I don't know who that is. I barely know this exists, and I'm traumatized. Please help me. Just then, a helicopter comes up and begins open firing into this man's apartment.
Oh my god.
He's having the worst fucking day.
Fully.
Spider-Man and the CFO sprint away, and the elevator door begins to open, and it looks out into an empty elevator shaft.
Oh shit.
The CFO falls down the elevator shaft, and Spider-Man dives through to catch him, asking the CFO to try to fall slower.
Fall slower.
Spider-Man catches him and brings him down to safety. Sable arrives and begins approaching the CFO, and Spider-Man goes to a perch to call Yuri and give her a heads up. She is relieved that he's okay. Spider-Man calls MJ and tells her the CFO is okay, and the demons were looking for Dr. Isaac Delaney. He's hoping she can look into him, and she says she will, partner. Spider-Man checks his voicemail and has a manic as fuck voicemail from Otto. He's saying, why replace body parts when we can fully improve upon them? We can give them something better!
Oh my god, he is literally inventing cyberware.
Spider-Man sees nothing alarming with this message. And it's just like, oh boy, I've got a lot of plates spinning. I'm gonna have a real busy week. Like, does not understand what's happening.
You could use 4 extra arms.
Oh, shut up. Spider-Man talks to MJ to ask what she found out about Dr. Isaac Delaney, and she sends him a picture of 3 dorks dressed in cheap knockoff costumes of the Lizard, Mysterio, and the Vulture.
Nice.
MJ says Dr. Isaac Delaney is one of them and to check out a Halloween party to find them. Spider-Man's grateful that he at least does have a costume on. On the way, Aunt May calls to let Spider-Man know that she spoke to Rio Morales and Miles is going to be volunteering at Feast. She's really proud of him and says Uncle Ben would be proud of that too.
Oh.
She's forever of the mindset that when you help someone, you help everyone. And this really brings her love and joy. What doesn't bring people joy is a little bit of drama. So in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, with Aunt May's death, her tombstone, I believe, reads, when you help someone, you help everyone.
Oh, really?
And they didn't talk to Insomniac about this. Sony was just like, yeah, put that in. That's fucking great.
I get it, because Sony also invented Feast. Like, it was invented for the game, and that is in the movies as well.
Yeah, so they lifted a couple things from the games for the Tom Holland movies. So there's argument that there's some Earth 1048 influence in that one as well, not just in the Spider-Verse animated movies, but it was like, they definitely were like, hey man, they wrote that first.
It's all Sony at the end of the day, so is it stealing from yourself? Kind of.
It's not necessarily content cannibalization, but they could have thrown a thank you to Insomniac.
Fully, at the very minimum.
It costs you nothing to be grateful.
Yeah.
Not that they're ungrateful.
Right.
I start drama with a full... No, calm down. The Halloween party is a full fucking rager at Empire State University. There's a lot of people in Spider-Man themed outfits and some cheap onesies, as you'll get at any college party, obviously. Spider-Man appreciates that he has to go help someone dressed as one of his greatest foes. Here, Spider-Man can run into someone who's dressed as Spider-Man. Kind of.
Uh-huh.
It's a shirtless white guy with a Spider-Man mask on and blue jeans. For Kind of Funny fans, this is Greg Miller, who has a character called Shirtless Spider-Man that's shown up on a few different Kind of Funny projects here and there.
Oh, really?
Insomniac really likes him, and they invited him to come down and reprise, or I suppose solidify canonically, his role as Shirtless Spider-Man in the game.
Does he have more than 3 chest hairs?
Yes. He's definitely got Peter Parker beat on the chest hair world. And now, Greg Miller is canonically a Spider-Man on Earth 1048, which is fucking sick.
Congratulations, Greg.
Real Spider-Man goes through the party and finds Dr. Isaac Delaney dressed as the Lizard dancing on the dance floor. And he dances like a silly dad, so it's not weird. Spider-Man gets distracted on the dance floor by a drunk man dressed as Rhino, and as he webs him to keep the drunk chill, Dr. Isaac Delaney gets kidnapped by the demons and brought into the science lab of the college. Spider-Man goes in after him, and Delaney is pulled at gunpoint into a secured server room. Here, Dr. Delaney comes face to face with Martin Lee. Martin Lee says, You recently began working with someone at an Oscorp lab. Tell me his name. Dr. Delaney is scared. But during this moment, he also still has a big lizard tail sewn to his butt. So it was very difficult to feel bad for him because I'm like, you look like a little dinosaur. Oh, little buddy's scared.
How can I take you seriously?
Dr. Delaney hesitates to tell Martin Lee anything, and Martin Lee seamlessly shifts into something else, a glowing silver and black version of himself. He becomes a shadow of what he once was, his black suit glowing white and his skin glowing black. It's like the full color version of himself shifted into a negative version of himself. Martin Lee puts a hand on Dr. Delaney, who also shifts into this negative version of himself. Dumbass lizard tail and all. Spider-Man comes out of hiding and announces, "The show's over, Lee." Martin Lee puts his hands on two of his demons and they crumble to the ground.
Oh.
He's absorbed their energy and now they are empty.
Oh, fuck.
Spider-Man sees them falls and says, "Apparently the show's not over." Martin Lee puts his hands out and exerts energy at Spider-Man, a beam of energy that ripples through the server room and destroys everything. Here, we see Martin Lee as his other form, Mr. Negative. Don't love that name.
No, it's a terrible name. I've always hated this name.
It's a little on the nose, you know?
It's a cool character to bring in because he is a relatively new character in Spider-Man's lore, like from the comics. But, like, still, the name is so dumb.
We could have gone harder on the name.
Yeah, and, like, that doesn't really explain what his powers are because they're very just kind of blob.
It's kind of just Debbie Downer. Like
energy, like, thing. But, you know, he is a good villain at the end of the day. I just don't like the name.
And performed very well.
Yeah, fully.
But yeah, the name's really corny. Mr. Negative turns to Dr. Delaney and asks again, his name? Dr. Delaney says, Dr. Morgan Michaels. Mr. Negative turns to walk away. And also just on the character of Mr. Negative, the original character of Mr. Negative was inspired by Kilgrave on Jessica Jones, in that they wanted to bring in a lesser-known villain that could be platformed to be a beloved character. To your point of him not getting a lot of screen time, and now they're like, let's use him. That's kind of cool.
Fully.
The Kilgrave, fantastic name.
Oh my gosh, great name.
Mr. Negative sounds like a bummer. After Dr. Delaney gives up his colleague, Martin Lee thanks him and nods to a demon. The demon gives Dr. Delaney a gun, and, under the spell of Mr. Negative, Dr. Delaney shoots himself in the head.
Oof.
Spider-Man is horrified by this and kicks the shit out of all the demons in the room, while Martin Lee escapes unharmed.
I think one of the biggest surprises was how dark this game goes.
Oh my god, right? Because you're like, yeah, you know, like you think that your gut reaction may be a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Right.
This is dark as fuck.
It goes really dark.
After the fight, Spider-Man runs back out into the party to see Mr. Negative has begun corrupting the partygoers. They glow and become violent and fight each other. So Spider-Man takes the lead and knocks them out himself and webs them to shit so they'll stop hurting each other. I could have used this on a couple drunk nights too, so I get it.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Negative corrupts the big-ass drunk in the Rhino suit that was hassling Spider-Man earlier, and he becomes a huge pain in the ass for the rest of this fight. Spider-Man doesn't get what Mr. Lee was doing to this people, but holy shit, it's really powerful. At one point, the drunk Rhino charges Spider-Man, who jumps onto his back and rides him into the ground.
I like that it's kind of a mini boss fight with Rhino, but it's not actually Rhino.
Yeah, it's a corrupted drunk asshole at a party, and this is a little silly, but I really enjoyed the reprieve after seeing someone, like, pop themselves in the head.
Yeah, right? Fully.
Spider-Man checks in with Yuri to get protection on Dr. Morgan Michaels, and Yuri asks, well, who is that guy? She says Sable has him under protection in the city, but won't say where, which annoys the shit out of Yuri. She's like, I'm supposed to run this city, what the fuck? MJ calls to see if Spider-Man found Dr. Delaney, and he says, yeah, but Mr. Lee corrupted him and made him shoot himself. So it's a bit of a yes and a bit of a no. MJ is bothered, but moves on to tell Spider-Man about a secret lab connected to Devil's Breath that Fisk built, and Mayor Osborn asked Fisk to keep it off the books from regulators. This shit must be dangerous. Also, it's connected to Dr. Morgan Michaels somehow. Haven't connected those yet.
Yeah, he's just drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, and now he has devil's breath.
Spider-Man figures everything comes back to Norman Osborn, so I guess it's time to pay him a visit. Spider-Man goes to the Oscorp skyscraper so he can break into Norman's office. There's a lot of Sable agents, naturally, but we're stealthy Spider-Man, so we got this. MJ calls Spider-Man to say she can probably find the Oscorp CFO even though he's in custody, and she can see if she can smooth him into talking about Dr. Morgan Michaels. Once he's in the building, Spider-Man sneaks through the vents and overhears Norman Osborn speaking to Wilson Fisk.
Oh, wow.
He's threatening him, telling the incarcerated Kingpin, if you come after me, I come after you. Spider-Man gets into Norman's office where he sees a project recap on something called Project GR27, a project that was replacing genetic mutations and errors, something in hopes to fix diseases. They did research, and deep in the deck, Spider-Man sees that while this was made to fix diseases, it evolved into a bioweapon called Devil's Breath. It attacks the patient's immune system and immediately causes pain, immune system failure, and then a swift death. It is meant to cure genetic issues, and instead, it destroys your entire body.
Does the complete opposite.
Yeah, they failed that shit. Dr. Morgan Michaels keeps a sample with him at all times. So if we find him, we find Devil's Breath. Spider-Man calls MJ to let her know Devil's Breath was originally a cure for genetic disorders, but is now deadly, and they have to find Dr. Morgan Michaels. MJ says she's still trying to reach the Oscorp CFO who will know where Dr. Morgan Michaels is, and Spider-Man reminds her that that's dangerous, but she doesn't give a shit. The CFO is being held at a Sable compound in Central Park, so Spider-Man heads out there. On the way, Spider-Man gets a voicemail from Otto where he's absolutely fucking on one, talking about how everything relates back to the mind. The mind is the cure for everything.
Oh no, he's losing his.
The power of the sun in the palm of your hand. The Sable Central Park compound is extremely brightly lit and has a bunch of thick glass barricades surrounding an enclosure. Inside, there's tents popped up and armed guards everywhere. Spider-Man knows MJ is probably there right now looking for Dr. Morgan Michaels and finds her in a tent being held at gunpoint.
Oh, damn it, MJ, what'd you do? Also, Central Park does not seem like the best place to hold people.
Where are they gonna go?
Well, still, like, there are much more secure places than the park.
The game shifts to 15 minutes ago, and we play as Sneaky Sneak MJ, who enters the compound through a hole in the fence.
Woohoo!
She navigates the claustrophobic compound map, making her way to follow the Oscorp CFO and distracting guards by knocking shit over along the way. She manages to get pictures of maps, of safe houses, and of other key Sable secrets. MJ gets into the tent where the Oscorp CFO is being held. He has access to his computers and coffee, so he seems fine, but he's scared shitless seeing MJ sneak up on him. MJ asks where Dr. Morgan Michaels is, and the CFO pulls a gun on her and says, "You're with Martin Lee. He sent you. If he wants to kill me, you tell him to do it himself." MJ reassures him that she's a journalist while she's literally at gunpoint. She's not with the Demons or Sable, she's with the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
And she wants to see Lee stopped. The CFO realizes, oh, I recognize your byline. So you're a fan.
Oh, wow. Like, honestly, I don't typically check out who's writing the articles. I don't know if you do.
I do.
Oh, okay.
When it's local stuff or like a consistent publication, yeah.
Okay, then.
Especially if it's something that I really fuck with. That's on some nerdier shit, though. I'll give you that one. But because he's a fan of hers, he's like, oh, you're safe. I loved your article. I loved your quizzical. The CFO tells MJ that Sable won't listen to me. She has Michaels in the Bowery, but she's ignoring Grand Central. The Demons were talking about it when they held me, and the Demons are going to Grand Central. As he goes to explain everything, Spider-Man comes down and knocks out the CFO, thinking he was a Sable agent holding a gun on MJ.
Oh my god, dude.
The CFO is knocked out cold. Like,
I love that you fuck this up.
The light is gone from this man's eyes. And the commotion brings the Sable agents out, ruining everything. So Spider-Man announces, sorry, Charlie. Okay, time to go. And MJ protests. And she's like, no, he knows something. And you knocked him unconscious, you fucking shitbag. But Spider-Man has to get her out of there before they can get held up by Sable agents. So she's fucking pissed.
Oh, you two are not getting back together anytime soon.
Not tonight, buddy. Spider-Man drops off a very grouchy MJ to her apartment, and she is so mad that after she gets inside, she calls Spider-Man to yell at him, as if the ride over wasn't enough time to get this shit out of her system.
To continue yelling at him. Holy shit, she is mad.
She says, this is exactly why we broke up. Just the meanest shit possible. We broke up because you wouldn't stop treating me like a baby. I may not have super spider powers, but I'm not made out of glass. And Spider-Man is like, You snuck into the middle of an armed military You know what? Never mind. What did you learn about Dr. Michaels?
Yeah, right.
MJ reluctantly tells him that Dr. Michaels is at the Bowery, but doesn't tell him about Grand Central.
Fascinating.
And then she hangs up on him. At this point now in the city, the Sable agents are patrolling, and the demons are still running rampant. While out in the city, Rio Morales calls Peter to thank him for helping give Miles an outlet while he processes his grief, and he's going to be starting a feast soon. Peter promises to be there for Miles' first day at the shelter, and just to be there for him and help out, and Rio truly appreciates that. Since he's on his Peter grind right now, Peter heads to Otto's lab to check up on him and see what his latest manic rants have led to. Inside the lab, Otto is hard at work at neurosensors that will connect to the prosthetic limbs. Otto puts the neurosensor helmet on, which locks into Otto's neurofunctioning brain. Peter thoughtfully gets near the plug in case he has to pull it, in case of fire, you know.
Right.
Using only his mind, Otto has the prosthetic arm pick up a tennis ball, throw it, and catch it. He has another prosthetic arm go up, and they pass the ball back and forth. Peter is amazed and audibly just says, "Yes!" Intensely, Otto uses his mind to grab more and more balls, and the two prosthetic arms begin juggling about 20 tennis balls at once, using simply the power of Otto's thoughts. Gracefully, the arms put the balls back in the bucket after Otto concludes the test. He says, "All right, I'd call that a mild success." And Peter says, "I'd call that unbelievable." Otto goes to take the neurosensor helmet off, but his hands are shaking, and he can't reach it. Peter helps get the neurosensor helmet off of Otto, and he asks Otto what's going on. Otto says that he has a degenerative neurological disorder, probably from overexposure to toxic chemicals in his youth.
Oh, those.
That very specific thing that we've all experienced?
Yeah.
Peter is sorry and asks if there's anything he can do. Otto says he's already doing it. He tells Peter that the worst part is it only affects the muscles. The mind continues to work, but it can no longer do. Otto looks at Peter and says, "You're the only one who knows, and I'd like to keep it that way." Peter agrees, naturally, and Otto tells him, "If you'd like to seek a position with more of a future..." But Peter cuts him off and says, "I came here to work with you because of what you got going up there, and that's not going anywhere, so neither am I." Humbled and reassured, Otto hugs Peter close, thanking him with his arms more than his words ever could. Otto gets back to work on his mechanical arms while Peter goes into the office. He sees scans and tests from the doctors, showing that Otto will lose motor functions within a year.
Damn.
They need to proceed carefully. The neurosensor device and prosthetics work with a neurological implant, which could fuck with Otto's condition, or even change his personality if it doesn't mesh well. Peter gets a text from Aunt May, who asks if he's coming by, and so Peter leaves the lab to head off to Feast to meet with Miles. Miles, speaking of, is in an alley getting jumped right now.
Jesus, Miles.
2 men are trying to rob Miles, and even more show up. First another 3, then a total of 7 are all there with bats and crowbars to knock off a teenager with probably $50 top in his pocket.
Oh my god, go after a better target, dude.
Miles tries to fight back, but gets knocked down immediately. Thankfully, Spider-Man isn't far and comes down to save Miles. He beats up the street gang and checks up on Miles, who is like, "Oh, you're Spider-Man! The amazing Spider-Man! The spectacular Spider-Man!"
Fully fanboying.
I know. Spider-Man tells Miles, "Hey, that was brave, but leave the fighting to the pros." Miles asks, "Well, what if there aren't any around?" Spider-Man tells Miles, "If the other guy's bigger, you gotta be quicker." And Miles goes, "Yeah, that's easy for you to say. I just can't do what you do." Miles, give it literally one more game,
Just
baby.
like, wait a couple weeks.
Spider-Man comes to Miles and says, "Okay, put him up." He teaches Miles to stand hips square, let the other guy hit first, and then lean in when they're losing their balance. This ends with Miles punching Spider-Man in the face, who tells him to keep it up and he'll be fine.
Yeah, he can take that punch, Miles. You're fine.
Miles thanks him and watches Spider-Man swing away. He looks up at his hero and says, "I just punched Spider-Man." Miles heads out to the Feast shelter and calls his best friend to tell him he just saw Spider-Man. They have a hacking app that they've been playing with, and his friend is disappointed that Miles didn't pitch to Spider-Man.
Dude, Spider-Man doesn't have money.
If no one realizes this, he is not a good VC.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the path to Feast has been blocked off by a Sable checkpoint, where everyone is asking for papers and doing search and frisks on everyone passing by.
The fuck?
It's horrific, but Miles is more amused that he can use his hacking app to kill the Sable drones and sneak through the checkpoint. These are armed private militia agents, but Miles' app takes them all the fuck down, which is fantastic. And now Miles is just making his way downtown, sneaking fast, checkpoints passed, and he's Feast-bound.
Oh my god, stop.
What?
That was great.
Inside Feast, Miles walks into the shelter and is greeted by Peter. He asks, "Hey, all right, what can I do to help?" And Peter asks him just to talk to people, meet some people, hand out coffee, get your bearings. Peter leaves Miles to refill people's coffee cups, where one irate man is watching a TV story on the last moments of Officer Jefferson Davis.
Oh.
It discusses how the city is mourning a hero cop, and the irate man says, "Hero? All that guy did was get himself blown up."
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, people don't like cops.
Peter sees this from afar and swoops in, introducing Miles as the son of the hero cop, and he'll be volunteering here. The irate man realizes he's being a piece of shit and gives Miles his condolences. Peter ushers Miles into the kitchen to help Aunt May as he sets off to leave. Miles thanks Peter for the assist, and Peter leaves to get out to the Bowery, where Dr. Morgan Michaels is about to be transported. Spider-Man leaves and heads out to save this Dr. Morgan Michaels guy, giving Yuri a heads up on the way out. She warns him that Silver Sable made it clear he's not welcome by any stretch of the imagination. And Spider-Man says, "Oh, what's she gonna do, shoot me?" And Yuri gives it a 50-50 chance. She asks Spider-Man about Devil's Breath, saying, "If this gets loose in the city, what's our worst-case scenario?" Spider-Man thinks about how the alleged genetic disease cure is actually a swift ticket to death and says, "Oh, you know, global pandemic, end of the world, that kind of thing." Yuri says, "Why did I even ask?" And she just hangs up on him. At the Bowery, Dr. Michaels is handcuffed to a suitcase of Devil's Breath. He's flanked by armed Sable agents and is moved into a black sedan nervously. As he gets into the sedan, a car is flung down the street. A huge black armed tank comes barreling down the street, shooting rockets at the Sable agents. They smash a ton of cars on the way in. Sable agents shoot out, but the truck full of demons shoots back, laying down massive suppressive fire on all the Sable agents. The car Dr. Morgan Michaels is in gets flipped over, and a demon personally drags him out of the wreckage by his foot and carries him into the tank. Martin Lee ushers him in, saying, "Welcome aboard, Doctor." Spider-Man comes down and opens up a fire hydrant to take care of the fires from the crashed cars and goes to chase after the demons and Dr. Michaels. Silver Sable announces that she has authorization for deadly force and shoots rockets at the tank while Spider-Man fights the demons. He tells her not to shoot rockets because there's a fucking bioweapon in the truck, but that doesn't deter her. She's real gun happy. This kicks off a massive car sequence where follow cars from demons chase after the demon tank, and Sable agents also lay down fire, all while Spider-Man tries to neutralize everyone and get Dr. Morgan Michaels out safe. Spider-Man makes it down to the cabin of the tank and looks Mr. Negative in the face and tells him to hand it over. Glowing in his full negative form, Mr. Negative shoots at Spider-Man. Spider-Man comes around and tries to grab the Devil's Breath briefcase, but Martin Lee catches his arm and tightens his grip around Spider-Man. A black mist floats around Mr. Negative's hand, and Spider-Man is taken aback by what he feels as they connect. He screams and says, "What are you doing to me?" Mr. Negative responds, "Giving you a new perspective." In a flash, Spider-Man is gone from the sunny New York afternoon. He's in a world that's smoky and black with bright white lights, just like the negative aesthetic Mr. Negative truly embodies. This whole world is seen as a negative, and Spider-Man is fully transported here because of Mr. Negative's touch. He looks around and says, "What the hell?" Spider-Man hears Mr. Negative say, "I must be honest, I was hoping to bring you here. My abilities lend me a certain persuasiveness. I've been watching you. I was waiting for you at City Hall. You never came. Where were you?" Mr. Negative disappears in a flash and reappears deeper in the space. The whole area is City Hall the day of the Osborn rally. The scaffolding, the way the street was blocked off, it's like walking through a nightmare you remember. Spider-Man asks, "Is this real or is this in my mind?" Mr. Negative simply says, "It was a shame so many had to die with no heroes to save them." Spider-Man walks through the shadows of the people running from the bombs, descending into the nightmare. He can hear his heartbeat through his chest as he moves forward. Mr. Negative says, "That officer saved your life, didn't he? He was here because of you. And Norman wanted to use him." A futile gesture in the end. And where was Norman during all of this? Slinking away like a rat. He knew what was going to happen, and he fled.
Ooh.
Norman is a hidden cancer on this city, and he must be excised with no trace of his corruption to return. Norman hides behind the mask of his lies. I will break it apart, and I will drag him into the light. Put on the mask. Become one of us. A demon mask hangs in the air in front of Spider-Man. Spider-Man web grips it and flings it across the nightmare. Mr. Negative says, "One way or another, you will join me." Negative figures come out and fight Spider-Man. They're not demons here, they're like shapeless black figures like Bendy's ink monsters. Mr. Negative taunts him, saying, help him trade one life, Norman Osborn, to save the entire city of New York. He asks why Spider-Man defends Osborn, who sits in an ivory tower. He begs him to show him his true strength. Spider-Man keeps his head down, fights, and reminds himself this is not real. Mr. Negative joins the fight, demanding that Spider-Man kneel to him or he'll expose him. Spider-Man tells him, I won't abandon you in the darkness, Martin. Mr. Negative promises, I will break you and leave you brain dead. Spider-Man tells him to come back to the light, and Mr. Negative simply screams no. The fight concludes after Spider-Man has destroyed the demon mask overhanging in the nightmare and wakes back up, hanging off the side of the tank with Mr. Negative in the present. The tank crashes into a building, and by the time Spider-Man gets out of the wreckage, Mr. Negative has made it out with a devil's breath sample.
Oh, shit.
Spider-Man sees Dr. Morgan Michaels, who only asks, did they take it? Spider-Man confirms they did, and asks, how worried should I be? Dr. Morgan Michaels says, very.
Oh, no.
A helicopter comes down, and Silver Sable repels out with a superhero landing. She demands to know where the serum is, and Dr. Morgan Michaels simply says, gone. She swears in a foreign language and starts yelling at Spider-Man, saying, you think you save people, but you just make it worse. This is your fault. And she shoves him.
She's not wrong either.
He says, my fault? He was under your protection. Silver Sable pulls out 2 guns and points them both at Spider-Man, who asks, do you really need 2 of those? I love that he's immediately over her shit. Dr. Morgan Michaels says they need to talk to Osborn and goes with Silver Sable. He turns as he leaves and gratefully tells Spider-Man, I'll remember this. Spider-Man calls Yuri to ask about possible locations for Martin Lee, and she gives him a lead on a black sedan. But when he gets there, the car is trashed and there's no devil's breath in sight. Spider-Man calls MJ to give her a heads up, but MJ sends him to voicemail. He says, oh no, what are you up to now, MJ? You're crazy. Well, we find out she's on another MJ mission.
Oh, goody.
MJ is at Grand Central Station where the CFO said the demons were looking for something. She figures she should call Peter and give him a heads up, but is like, actually, I fucking hate that guy right now, so I got this. Grand Central Station is exactly as it's seen in the movies. It's massive with impossibly high ceilings and traditional architecture. Through the center of the station, there are all these demonstrations of Oscorp technology. Shit like data encryption features or microbe dispersal devices, just generic shit tech advancement stuff. It's a little weird, but it's kind of cool to see in person.
Totally.
While MJ is checking something out, Martin Lee comes up to her directly. He looks at her and says, this will be easier for everyone if you remain calm and do as I say. MJ looks him in the eyes and yells, police! The station cop turns to walk towards her, and immediately a few demons jump him and knock him out. This is MJ's fault.
Fully. She got this guy beat up.
The demons grab the microbe dispersal device that was on display. A few other demons lock the doors of the station and come pouring out of the woodwork, guns drawn. They knock out the security guards and cops and shoot at the ceiling, sending everyone in the station into a panic. So I guess that guy would have gotten knocked out anyway, but MJ kind of expedited it.
Yeah.
Martin Lee calls Mayor Osborn's office, saying he'd like to speak to the mayor. The assistant asks who's calling, and Martin Lee tells him the man he's looking for. Mayor Osborn hops on the line immediately, and Martin Lee directs him to be at Grand Central Station in 30 minutes, alone, or there will be more blood on your hands. Mr. Lee crushes the cell phone in his hand to end the call. I love that trope. I think that's so cool.
It's so unnecessary, but so cool at the same time. But like, come on. That's so dramatic to crush the phone to turn it off.
I love that. Like, it doesn't really destroy the SIM card, does it? What are you doing?
No, we got battery acid leaking all over your hands now.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. He goes to the microbe dispersion device and loads it up with devil's breath. MJ texts Spider-Man saying, "Party at Grand Central Station. Wear your best suit." The hostages are huddled all on the floor, sitting on the ground, surrounded by demons with guns. Spider-Man calls MJ and asks if she's okay, and she tells him, Lee's going to release the devil's breath, but he's not going to do it until Norman Osborn gets here.
I love how Spider-Man's like, do you consent to being saved this time?
Hey, dipshit. Are you good?
Yeah, last time I got in trouble for saving you, so do you want me to this time?
You yelled at me last time when all the guns were pointed at you and it was my fault. Okay, let's work this out, babe. Spider-Man realizes Martin Lee's plan was always to pin Devil's Breath on Norman Osborn. And MJ's like, yeah. Hey, get your shit together and get over here. Spider-Man gets into the ventilation system and MJ warns him of the drones flying around. Spider-Man zips around a bit but can't get closer because of the drones. MJ offers to steal the tablet the demons were using to manage the drones and manages to save Spider-Man's ass while keeping the other hostages safe. One asshole runs up to the demons and says, "No one's taking me without a fight," and runs at a demon.
Oh my god.
The demon checks him immediately and hits him and pulls a gun on him. MJ tells him to wait, let him go. I'm a reporter. I can ensure Norman Osborn gets here on time, but please let him go. The demons radio this in, and they move MJ to be in a secluded area from the other hostages so she can wrangle the mayor.
What kind of power do they think this reporter has?
Look, Spider-Man's from a different era. As they pull her into a corner, Spider-Man takes out the demon moving her and directs MJ to jump and hide. The player is still MJ and sneaky sneaks around the station with Spider-Man acting as a stealth backup from above.
It's really cool, honestly.
Spider-Man catches up with MJ and tells her he's taking her out to safety, and she refuses this time. He asks her if they can argue later, and she continues to fight him on this, saying, "No, we're saving everyone. Together, you dipshit." MJ begins separating the demons one by one with distractions and having Spider-Man stealth take them out as she gets them isolated. Martin Lee re-enters the atrium asking for the reporter, but no one knows where she is. Spider-Man causes some commotion, and Martin Lee says to start the timer. There are 2 minutes until the Devil's Breath detonates in the atrium. MJ runs up to the detonator, and Spider-Man talks her through defusing a literal bomb. Like they're cutting wires, it's everything you want it to be.
Oh, perfect. And then like changing over between the yellow one. No, wait, the red one.
Yeah. They get the bomb defused, and the player switches to Spider-Man, focusing on getting the hostages out. Now that the device is neutralized, Spider-Man can be a little bit louder while taking out the demons. With the fight acting as a distraction, MJ leads the hostages out of the train station. The demons give up on the hostages and all focus on Spider-Man, and MJ tells him to kick Martin Lee's ass. Spider-Man fights demons, realizing Martin Lee picked Grand Central Station because the train was his getaway car.
Ooh, smart though.
The train begins to leave and Spider-Man web zips into another train car, face to face with Mr. Negative. They brawl in the empty train cars that start speeding through the tunnels of New York City. Mr. Negative punches with dark energy, and Spider-Man kicks through him, through train cars in this tight, confined, claustrophobic space. Spider-Man says, "Why are you doing this?" And Mr. Negative answers simply, "Paying off an old debt." In one train car, there's 2 demons. Mr. Negative touches both of them, sucking their energy out, and they fall to the ground unconscious. Or perhaps unalive.
Honestly, why would you work for this guy?
The benefits cannot be that good.
Seriously.
Mr. Negative is stronger now, throwing dark energy beams across the train car, disseminating the steel of the subway. Spider-Man begs, "You're sick. Let me help you, Martin." Instead of responding, Mr. Negative holds Spider-Man and jumps from their moving train into another moving train on another track, scaring the shit out of every passenger on there. They evacuate the car, and Mr. Negative kicks the shit out of Spider-Man. Eventually, Spider-Man throws Mr. Negative into a power grid at the front of the car, and it electrocutes Mr. Negative enough that he passes out.
Finally.
The train barrels out with no brakes, and Spider-Man stands at the front, shooting webs farther and farther on either side, holding himself in the middle and acting as a force to stop the train. His webs break, and he says, "That totally worked last time when I did it in Spider-Man 2.
I love the nods to the Raimi Spider-Man movies throughout these. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Plan B, Spider-Man web pulls the train up and out of the tunnels and onto an empty New York street, safely keeping the brakeless train from crashing.
It's still crashed.
But not as bad. After the train is somewhat safely stopped on the surface, Spider-Man looks back in the car. Mr. Negative has woken up and is crawling in the wreckage. Spider-Man looks at him and says, "Next stop, prison."
His quips just sometimes fall so flat.
Not that they're not all gonna hit. I'll give you that.
No.
Mr. Negative, still glowing, is strapped Hannibal Lecter style by the cops and is shipped off to the raft. The device with the Devil's Breath is securely picked up by Specialty Oscorp and Sable Forces and loaded onto an Oscorp truck. And that's where the game ends.
No, it does not. What the fuck?
Spider-Man hits up MJ and says, "Hey, let me know when you want to talk." MJ texts back and says, "She's not ready to talk yet." Spider-Man says, "Hey, it's over, by the way." MJ texts back, "Oh, okay, fine."
She fully misinterpreted what you meant by that.
And Spider-Man realizes it too. He goes, "Oh shit, no, I meant Lee, I beat him." And she hits him back with, "Oh." He waits a minute and goes, "Do you want it to be over?" He stares at those little dots.
Oh.
She says, "No, but maybe it should be. Need some time to figure some things out." He wonders what there is to figure out, but he texts her, "Sure, me too."
Oh.
MJ texts back saying she has some work to do and says she'll call tomorrow. Maybe.
Honestly, this is one of the most painful conversations of the entire game. It's so awkward, but I think it's filmed beautifully too.
Oh, yeah, of him just being like, "What the fuck? Yeah, I'm totally going through it too. I love you."
And he's like fully like just like casually walking on the side of a building while doing it too. It's really funny.
Spider-Man heads out to the lab to check in on Otto, who greets him with a whiskey in a mug. Otto says he is here just in time to celebrate. Peter looks around and can't see the prosthetic and asks, "Okay, where are the arms?" Otto answers with a smile, and 2 robotic arms come out from all around him.
Oh.
At this point, they're less arms, more tentacles. They're long and metallic with claws on the ends for picking up objects. The tips of the claws glow like talons. Peter is in awe. He says, "Oh, it's so cool." Otto says he did an intracranial neural network, and it's hooked up to his fucking brain with a microchip.
Oh my god, dude. Don't fuck with your brain.
Otto cheers as Peter and says, "No one can take this away from us, and your work on the neutral web was the key."
Oh no.
Peter protests, saying, "We haven't even tested it yet." But Otto says, "Look at me. It works perfectly." Peter looks through the diagnostics and sees an issue with the motor cortex and goes into the programming. He keeps seeing issues with the brain connection. He tries to fix it but keeps running into rolling errors. Peter goes to Otto to tell him, and Otto blows it off saying, "Fortune favors the bold."
Oh my god, dude.
2 more tentacles come out of Otto, and now he stands using all 4 tentacles to lift him up, his weak body off of the ground. Peter explains that the connection in the neuroweb is affecting his brain and his inhibitions and his moods. But Otto cuts him off, screaming, "We've done enough testing. For the first time, I don't feel like a failure. I feel like me." His tentacles stomp around loudly. Peter puts his arms out to reason with him, saying, "Otto, you're not a failure, but this could permanently damage your brain. Please." Otto pauses and says, "Right." He lets the tentacles bring him back down to the ground and removes the neurochip out of his neck. Peter tells him, "Don't worry, we're close." Otto promises to keep at it and work out the bugs. He sends Peter off and says, "He's okay." Peter nods, proud and scared for his hero. As he leaves, Otto says, "Thanks, Peter, for everything." Otto looks down at his tentacles. Peter leaves, and Otto's TV in the lab shows Mayor Osborn proudly boasting that Mr. Lee is behind bars, and the people of this city are now safer than they've ever been. Otto puts the chip back in his neck, and it fills him with rage. He screams, "Liar!" He plunges his tentacle through the TV screen, destroying it. Otto tells the screen, "You have no idea what you're in for." At Feast, Peter's checking on Aunt May. Peter asks how she's doing, and she says, "Oh, getting by." Peter asks about Mr. Lee, the terrorist, and Aunt May hasn't heard from him. She says, whatever became of him, that's not the one I want to remember. She asks about MJ, and Peter fumbles, saying, oh, it's complicated. Aunt May tells him that honesty is what got her and Uncle Ben through the rough patches. Just saying. Aunt May asks if Peter is honest with her, if MJ knows the real him. Then they're both distracted by a report on TV showing that the Oscorp truck carrying the Devil's Breath was robbed and the sample is gone.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Aunt May turns, and Peter is now gone too.
Not mysterious at all, dude.
Totally normal. Spider-Man web slings away from Feast, scared of who may have the Devil's Breath now. Spider-Man gets to the truck wreckage where Yuri is hovering in a helicopter. Yuri connects with him and saying, yes, the Devil's Breath is gone, but we have a bigger problem. Get on. Spider-Man jumps to the helicopter and Yuri tells him that Rikers is being attacked.
Oh, shit.
It's a huge prison, and they're seconds away from every inmate being on the loose on the streets of New York. The raft is on a different grid system and is allegedly safe, and Sable is looking for Devil's Breath, so Yuri is counting on Spider-Man to handle the Rikers outbreak. Rikers has all sorts of criminals, historically including Lil Wayne and Harvey Weinstein. Unfortunately, Yuri gets Spider-Man there a little late, and the inmates have already ransacked their armory, especially Harvey Weinstein. Spider-Man put a lot of these people behind bars, so they're particularly motivated when they see him again. The prison battle is sprawling with cops aimlessly shooting at nothing, and prisoners shooting rocket launchers because rocket launchers were on goddamn sale or something.
Why did they have them in prison?
In what prison riot world would you need a rocket launcher?
Oh my goodness.
From above, Yuri guides Spider-Man through the yard to neutralize as many violent threats as possible. Some inmates begin to steal a helicopter, which Spider-Man crashes down below. Spider-Man rejoins Yuri on her helicopter, but then sees an explosion out at the raft. Spider-Man says, I thought the raft was secure, and Yuri tells him, it was, now it's not. Let's go. And she reassures him, maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Loose electrical bolts ravage through the raft as they head towards it. Spider-Man warns Yuri, when it looks bad, it's actually usually worse. Electro is on the roof, shooting at Yuri's helicopter. It throws her across the cabin, and Spider-Man jumps in to save her.
Immediately worse.
Truly, just as soon as she's like, maybe it's not that bad, she's like hit with a death threat. The helicopter crashes, but Yuri is safe because of Spider-Man catching her and webbing her to safety. Electro welcomes Spider-Man to the raft as he opens up every cell, allowing every inmate out to confront Spider-Man. Yuri runs to the main control hub, armed with only a pistol. Spider-Man is left to handle every loose inmate, including Rhino, who runs through concrete walls, leaving the raft in absolute decimation.
The real Rhino this time.
Yeah. Rhino tells Spider-Man he hopes he enjoys the surprise. Spider-Man is not excited about the surprise. He goes through the wreckage, and the raft is completely gutted. Scorpion comes out of fucking nowhere and wraps Spider-Man in his tail. An explosion knocks Spider-Man free, and Scorpion slinks away. Yuri calls to check in, and Spider-Man reports back that Electro, Rhino, and Scorpion are all loose and very upset at him. Yuri is working on getting the cameras back on, so basically they're both dealing with a crisis. Spider-Man is taunted by Electro, who flies outside the raft. Spider-Man chases him, webbing through the island compound. As he catches up to Electro, he's plucked out of the sky by Vulture.
Oh, shit.
Vulture says, long time no see, and begins a Vulture rant, but Spider-Man webs his face and goes back to chasing Electro. Yuri checks in again, saying, all right, man, the entire population of the raft has escaped.
Oh, fuck.
Including Martin Lee, and that makes 5 of your worst enemies on the loose. Yuri leaves, saying some are heading into the city, and she just has to go lock shit down. Spider-Man continues to chase Electro through the raft, eventually landing on a helicopter landing pad surrounded by everyone. Electro, Rhino, Scorpion, Vulture, and now their new best friend, Mr. Negative. Upon entering the arena, Mr. Negative says, remember, he said not to kill him. And Spider-Man chimes in saying, good idea!
Appreciate that.
Each of his adversaries swing at Spider-Man, aiming to maim him within an inch of his life. The striking blow is from Scorpion, stinging him and knocking him to his knees. The 5 all surround Spider-Man, kicking his ribs and pushing him to the ledge of the platform. As Spider-Man begins to crawl away, he reaches his hand out over a ledge to escape, and his hand is met with a claw.
Oof.
One of the 4 tentacles comes up, revealing the 5 sinister villains were under the instruction of Dr. Otto Octavius. The tentacles bring Otto to the surface, and Spider-Man recognizes him, whispering, "Dr. Octavius?" Otto is wearing goggles, and the tentacles hold his weak body up high. He says to Spider-Man, "First and final warning, stay out of our way." The tentacles hold Spider-Man upside down and then fling him off a raft. Spider-Man sails through the night like trash wood in the wind. With Spider-Man gone, Otto addresses the group. He says, "Each of you has a job to do. Your debts will be repaid when we're done. Go." Each of the bad boys heads off as Spider-Man is seen floating in the Hudson River, clinging to a loose barrel. Yuri spots him and brings him to safety. On shore, Norman Osborn is holding a rally in Times Square. Otto Octavius climbs the huge digital screens with his tentacles, destroying projected images of Norman Osborn in the process. He holds the canister of Devil's Breath and says, "All these years, all these lies. It's over, Norman. Time to give them the truth." He hands the canister of Devil's Breath down to his tentacles, which breaks it apart, releasing a red cloud over the center of the city of New York.
Son of a bitch.
This cloud rains down on New Yorkers as Otto breathes through a mask, impervious to the imminent destruction of the Devil's Breath. At Feast, the shelter has turned into a triage with pop-up medical equipment and care for people who are sick. Aunt May is wearing a face mask and coughs, pulling her mask down to reveal she's been coughing blood.
Oh, shit.
A Feast volunteer asks if she's okay, and she assures them she's fine. MJ is on TV reporting on the bioterror attack, saying Sable agents are battling with Rikers and Raft escapees. Mayor Osborn is currently blaming Spider-Man for the outbreaks, despite, obviously, no evidence of Spider-Man having anything to do with this. The Daily Bugle actually published a report showing that the disease ravaging the city originated in an Oscorp lab. Norman is watching this report live, furious at MJ. Spider-Man recovers and wonders, "Dr. Octavius, how did I let this happen?" Yuri calls him saying, "Where did you go? You have 14 broken bones." Spider-Man is something of a scientist himself and says, well, I still have 192 non-broken ones.
That's a great response to that, honestly.
Just the immediate math really gets me. "Thanks for taking care of me, by the way." Yuri complains she had to hide Spider-Man from Sable, who has marked him as a high-priority target. They contemplate how it feels like the end of the world. The city absolutely ravaged with a bioterror disease, gangs of escaped prisoners taking over city blocks, literal demons. Sable is rounding people up and keeping them captive in bases. Like, shit is crazy. And Spider-Man is like, "Yeah, it sucks." Aunt May calls to check in and she says, "Do not worry about me. Feast is the safest place in the city, and I am fine." Spider-Man promises to stop by when he can and tells her that he loves her. Across the city, crimes are at an all-time high, and there are just fires breaking out everywhere. It's an absolute shit show. Yuri calls, desperate for help, saying that Electro is tearing apart one precinct and Rhino is tearing apart another. She needs Spider-Man to turn the tide, and he can go to either because, frankly, they're equally screwed.
Right.
While Spider-Man's on the way, Aunt May calls Peter, and she is begging for help. There's men from Rikers at another feast center demanding food. The staff are barricaded in, and Aunt May and Miles are heading over to help. Peter tells them not to move, and he's on the way soon. He's worried because she sounded exhausted. With Electro, the entire police precinct is electrified. The entire building is glowing with electricity, and there's demons everywhere, like, helping. The demons have brought out power transformers, which are essentially big-ass batteries, or as Tom would like to call them,
goddamn generators.
They're goddamn generators.
Oh, son of a bitch. There's always a goddamn generator.
And these goddamn generators keep Electro powered up to keep the cops at bay. Spider-Man has to take out all the Transformers to get Electro disarmed. On top of that, the small army of demons is also here, supporting Electro. After Spider-Man takes out the demons, Electro is gone. Through this fight, Miles has left a voicemail saying, "Hey, me, Aunt May, and MJ are at Feast Shelter, and we're under attack, and we need help ASAP. Please help me. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye. Spider-Man is worried and rushes to get through Rhino's bullshit so he can go help. At the other precinct, Rhino is running around, just throwing cars and wreaking havoc across the block.
He's throwing cars at us, man.
Fully, and they're aided by Riker's inmates, who are armed to the teeth. As Spider-Man gets to the block, he works on neutralizing the inmates first. Rhino, however, has already left the scene. Spider-Man figures Rhino is working on orders from Dr. Octavius to just start drama and dip, the way Electro must have as well. It's a thoughtful effort to weaken the city's defenses and cause chaos in the streets. So, well done, I guess.
Seems to be working.
While helping the precinct, some Sable agents on jetpacks begin attacking Spider-Man.
They can fly now?
They can fly, motherfucker! The Sable agents just say they will pacify him. Spider-Man asks, anyone else feeling very 1984 right now? Just me? Anyone? After neutralizing demons, Electro, Rhino, Riker's inmates, and Sable, Spider-Man calls Yuri to let her know he has to sign off for a bit. She thanks him for giving them a fighting chance. Spider-Man gets a call from MJ, who's at the feast center across town, where the convicts started a fire, and Miles and Aunt May are trapped in the burning building.
Oh my gosh, they just keep getting in trouble.
Spider-Man flies across New York to a burning building where the only family he has left in the world is trapped. Spider-Man bursts through the building and finds Miles and Aunt May surrounded by collapse. They're on a platform falling directly into the fire.
Oh my god.
MJ climbs up a fire escape and helps Miles and May across it while Spider-Man holds up the bit of floor they're standing on as they escape. As the building burns up, the roof collapses in and Spider-Man is knocked through the floors of the burning building. MJ and Miles manage to help him up and out and pull him to safety. Outside, Spider-Man confirms that May is okay. He thanks MJ profusely for helping get Miles and May out of there. She apologizes for screwing things up. She says it's just hard being the one who always gets saved. She just wants to do the saving. Spider-Man apologizes for making her feel like she couldn't save others. Miles finds MJ and Spider-Man outside with lots of water. Like, this is a weird beat. He has lots of water, and he has, like, flat, sparkling spring, mountain spring.
He's got a variety pack.
Yeah.
He went to Costco.
Spider-Man doesn't need any of the fucking sampler platter. And he tells MJ and Miles they need to divide and conquer. He assigns MJ to find a cure for the Devil's Breath. She commits to finding leads. Miles is to be the eyes and ears of Feast, and he needs to keep these people safe. Miles confirms he's down for it. And Spider-Man is off to save the city from cartoon nut jobs. The squad goes to divide and conquer. Miles wonders how he'll be in contact with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man says MJ will give him his number. After Spider-Man leaves, Miles asks if MJ is Spider-Man's girlfriend.
He's starting to figure shit out.
MJ blows this off and is like, hey, shut up. Why did you bring so much fucking water up here? You're weird.
Can I get a sparkling one, please?
Yeah. Spider-Man gets down to Times Square where the bomb squad is out here looking into the Devil's Breath outbreak. He traces some of the residue of the outbreak and follows biometric clues to trace Otto and see how he's been doing all this shit. The trail leads to Otto's staging area, where he has files and messages for each of the bad guys he's employed. There's a manifesto recorded by Otto talking about how evil Norman Osborn is that ends with Otto saying, if they only knew the Norman I know, the man behind the mask. Otto's done his research on Osborn clearly, his Sable Army, and his newly founded Sinister team. He knows what each of the villains really wants, and he offers them the world in exchange for helping take Norman down. Rhino, for example, is offered freedom from his Rhino lifestyle, and Otto promises he'll break him out of the suit so he can live like a normal man again.
Oh man, that's genuinely all he's ever wanted.
Truly. Vulture has spinal cancer, and Otto offers to get him a new spine and treatment in exchange for his support. Scorpion has gambling debt, so Otto says he can cut him a check. The motivations do not feel even across the board.
No, not at all.
It's like Vulture has this horrible disease that's crippling him day by day and causing him immense pain and heartbreak. And Scorpion's just $8,000 in the hole, you know? Like,
not everybody gets like this devastating backstory as to why they became who they are. Some of them are just fucking losers.
Rhino just wants to be a man again, and Scorpion just wants to be like, I'm trying to go to the east side, and every time I go there I get jumped because I owe some guy money. Spider-Man finds a map marked with Oscorp holdings in New York, with villains assigned to each. Otto's taken out Osborn's spots across the city one by one, and Mr. Negative is specifically going after the Devil's Breath anti-serum. It all culminates in a direct attack on Oscorp after everything else has been hit. Deeper in the stronghold, Spider-Man opens a suitcase, which is open to a live video call with Otto. Otto looks at Spider-Man and introduces himself, since they have not been formally introduced. Spider-Man isn't interested in pleasantries and cuts him off. Otto says this was a ruse to get him into position. And almost immediately, a bunch of bombs go off, sending Spider-Man out into the night, where he's immediately caught by Vulture.
Oh, shit.
It was a trap. Vulture has him lassoed and starts dragging him through the city. Right now, in this moment, Mary Jane Watson calls and is like, hey, are you okay? What are you doing? Spider-Man is very much not okay and tells MJ that, hey, Lee is gunning for the anti-serum and she needs to find the lab now. And then he hangs up on her. Just one line of being like, hey, babe, I'm being dragged through the city by the Vulture.
You can see why they broke up.
Yeah, just a little more communication. I think this would have been a stronger relationship, but that's the case with most things.
This is why she wanted a partnership. She's feeling like his girl in the chair.
Yeah, totally. And she's like, I want to be in the driver's seat if I'm going to be in a fucking chair.
Totally.
And he's like, I have to go. You do my homework. Bye. Vulture flies Spider-Man out to an industrial campus by the shore and drops him off at the feet of Electro. Vulture and Electro tag team fight Spider-Man through an Oscorp warehouse facility. This fight is long and varies between fighting Electro and Vulture and mostly consists of in-air flights.
I love this fight. It's great.
At one point, Electro tells Spider-Man, I'm a god and you're the human sacrifice. And Vulture chimes in with, he doesn't stand a chance. Spider-Man hits them back with, again, I hate to be a pessimist, but I don't think you guys are assessing the situation accurately. Banter. As Spider-Man knocks them both down, he takes the earpiece out of Vulture's ear, where he hears Otto asking for a status update. Otto tells Spider-Man if he really gave a shit, he'd be exposing Norman with them. Spider-Man says, you're sick and you need help. Otto tells him he has all the help he needs and he won't stop until Norman Osborn gets what he deserves. Spider-Man leaves Vulture and Electro for the cops to handle and goes to take a long, well-deserved nap. Spider-Man wakes up a while later and the city is foggy with smoke and destruction. Following the notes Spider-Man found in Otto's lair, he heads to the reservoir, where Scorpion has been assigned to tamper with the city's water. It's so fucked up. Spider-Man lands and looks around saying, all right, now if I were a mercenary dressed like a scorpion, where would I be? A voice rings out saying, behind you! It's a little corny and I love it. As Scorpion lunges into action, his tail piercing through the Spidey suit as he does.
Oh no.
Scorpion tells Spider-Man, me, I'd end it now, but Octavius is paying and he wants to torture you, which I respect. Scorpion jumps away as Spider-Man's vision gets blurry. This kicks off a hallucination sequence where the city is flooding in a sea of poison.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's like this blue-green lake, or maybe it's more like an ocean, and it quickly rises, filling the streets. It disseminates Spider-Man's health if he touches it. The world is blurry and dangerous, and Spider-Man has to swing high to stay away from the rapidly increasing poison ocean. He gets to a high point and analyzes the neurotoxin so he can create an antidote on the fly while he's poisoned. He's so committed to not dying, where I would have died really early on in the intro.
15 times already.
Just fallen and giving myself fucking tetanus and be like, you know what? I can't afford the ambulance ride. Spider-Man identifies the substance as a hallucinogenic neurotoxin that will kick off painful nightmares that his body believes are real and will cause actual pain. He needs a natural steroid from a plant he knows is in a greenhouse at a college campus nearby. He swings across a drowned downtown, and inside the greenhouse where the plant Spider-Man is looking for, Spider-Man collapses in pain, closing his eyes tight.
Oh.
When he opens them, the plant is gone, and he's at Octavius's lab. He wonders, is this real or is this in my mind? Which we've all had a night that's a little
been
too
there,
hard,
yeah.
He hears Otto's voice respond, it can be both! Which is the worst thing to hear after you have that thought. Through the door of the lab, Spider-Man exits into Central Park, seeing Dr. Otto Octavius, the scientist, not the supervillain, telling him, it's just the hallucinations intensifying. You can get through this. He disappears as Spider-Man gets closer to him, and Spider-Man says, Doc? You sound like... Otto finishes the thought. Like I did before the neural interface affected my mind? Yeah, my obsessions were always there, but The interface allowed me to fully embrace them. Spider-Man focuses, saying, I have to fix this. I have to fix you. Otto chides him, saying, oh, Peter, always trying to shoulder the responsibility even when there's no hope. I can't tell you how many times your unfettered optimism has kept me going when things looked bleak. I'll miss being with you, I really will. Central Park has broken up into different platforms now, all held up by massive arms. The world is tinted in a foggy gray scheme. Spider-Man apologizes, saying, I'm sorry, Doc, I'm so sorry. Otto says, yes, you're sorry. And yet, you let it happen. Spider-Man makes it back through Nightmare Central Park and gets to the plant. As he grabs it, he is crashing back into his nightmare New York. He bought himself some time, but he needs a permanent solution. Within Nightmare New York, the world is swallowed up in poison and the streets are fully submerged. Spider-Man knows there's one of Harry Osborn's research stations that could help him develop an antidote, so he heads there. Out of the ocean of poison, giant scorpion tails emerge to swipe at Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets a call from Scorpion, who taunts him, saying the call may just be a fevered scream of his dying brain. Spider-Man says, I'm coming for you. Scorpion, ironically, says, big talk from a tiny bug. The scorpion tails raise up to attack Spider-Man. As he gets to the research station, just as he gets to the research table, Spider-Man passes out again. He comes to, and the equipment is gone, and he's back in Otto's lab. Through the lab door is a disaster New York. It's dusty and deserted and full of loose construction and broken buildings. Otto tells him he's too late, just as he was too late to help me. Spider-Man tells him, this isn't about you, Doc. Otto says, oh, but it is me. It's the parts of myself I suppressed, but you helped me break those chains. Spider-Man apologizes again and promises to find a way to help him. Otto tells him, don't delude yourself. You never help anyone. The poison isn't in you. You are the poison. Everyone you touch suffers. You're a failure at life, love, career. You bring nothing but pain. Scorpion's tails burst through the twisted concrete of Nightmare New York as Spider-Man pleads with Otto, promising he won't give up. Please just talk to me so I can help you. Otto asks, oh, so you can treat me like the rest and suffocate me? No, I will let my genius shine alone. Otto calls him a rat. Spider-Man gets to the antidote equipment, and as he reaches it, once again, he's hurled down to the surface of the earth, free-falling. With the neurotoxin equipment from Harry's station, he heads back to Otto's lab to make the antidote permanent. The Nightmare New York is flooded with poison and is full of scorpion tails. The poison waves are higher than ever, and Spider-Man is in a race against the clock to save his own life. In the lab, Spider-Man enters and collapses almost immediately. A massive Otto Octavius in his full tentacle form break through reality. The lab is broken up across an orange cloudy sky in several different platforms hanging limp in space. Scorpion himself appears, fighting Spider-Man and taunting him once again. Otto's robotic arms and claws reach around the world of the lab as Scorpion appears several times over, 4 or 5 times all at once on the battle arena, fighting Spider-Man. Scorpion echoes Spider-Man's insecurities, telling him everyone would be better off without you. Everyone you've ever met suffers. Spider-Man brushes this off, knowing it's just the poison messing with him. Scorpion tells Spider-Man, if I were your uncle, I would have jumped in front of a bullet too.
What the fuck?
Spider-Man pushes through, makes the antidote, and as he comes to, he's in his underwear and a face mask.
Poor guy.
With the cure pulsing through his nearly naked body, he puts on his suit and goes, okay, let's pretend that didn't happen. It's again, like, so millennial core of like, well, that just happened.
Well, it makes you wonder what was really going on.
Yeah, was he just flailing in a closet?
Like, fully. Like, what was the reality of what he was doing this entire time? Oh my god. And he's just naked by the end of it.
Yeah,
so, like...
just his Spider-Man face mask and underoos.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Whoopsies.
Anybody could have walked in on that.
It's kind of like the Michael DeSanta hallucination scene but there's people tweeting about it. Like, there's a crazy asshole just naked in the park. It's a shame we don't get that of like, hey, Spider-Man was just like floating around erratically saying, the scorpions are going to poison me. But it's such a scary place right now in New York that everyone's like, that's not the weirdest thing happening right now.
Fully.
Spider-Man needs to get grounded, so he heads over to Feast to see Aunt May. At Feast, Aunt May is so excited to see Peter. She says she's holding up, but she's crazy busy. She collapses in a coughing fit, but insists she's fine. She's just a little run down. She says Miles has been picking up medical supplies from the relief center. Peter tells her to sit down for a bit while he works with Miles to get everything sorted out. So Peter calls Miles, who silences his phone, revealing he's hiding through some wreckage surrounded by loose inmates who have taken over an entire city block.
Oh, shit.
Miles can't give up, though. He knows that Feast needs those antibiotics. Using his hacking app, Miles turns lights off and on to distract the inmates and make his way through the city streets to the medical equipment. Miles listens in on the inmates, hearing them say they're directed to loot resource centers to prove Mayor Osborn can't really take care of his city or keep people safe. Yikes! Miles finds amoxicillin, and as he pockets it, Rhino throws a Sable agent through the medical supply crate he was just looting.
Oh my god.
Rhino is torturing Sable agents when Scorpion comes in and kills the Sable agents Rhino was torturing.
Jesus.
Miles is terrified at seeing death and runs away, which is reasonable.
Rightfully so.
On the way, he accidentally knocks over a box, alerting Scorpion and Rhino to his movement. Rhino smashes through boxes and shipping containers, while Miles tries not to get crushed to death. A promised Rhino does scream into the ether at him. It becomes a cat and mouse sequence of tiny, powerless Miles hiding from the absolute bulldozer that is Rhino. Miles makes it out while Rhino screams that he hates Chase of Goose.
It's a full-blown horror scene.
Yeah. But you know what? It's okay, because Miles at least has amoxicillin now. When he's out, he sees an inmate jumping an innocent guy. Miles can't let this go, and he tells the inmate to leave him alone. And as he does, a second inmate comes out to join him. One inmate goes to swing for Miles, and he uses his Spider-Man training to punch the guy out.
Well, he practiced one time.
He did punch Spider-Man once, so obviously he's good at this now. Miles stays light on his feet, squares his hips, lets the other guy make the first move, and then leans in when he's loose and punches the grown man out. Miles looks at the other inmate and says, "You want a taste?"
He's got his fucking balls immediately.
Oh, yeah, and the guy doesn't want a taste, so he runs off. Miles, now alone, is immediately mortified that he said, "You want a taste?"
Good, you should be.
Yeah, and he's like, "Man, I gotta work on my fight banter. That shit was embarrassing."
I gotta work on my quips.
Back is Spider-Man. Spider-Man checks in on Miles, telling him he's doing great and to stay working on Feast. Miles has relayed information about Rhino and what he heard from the inmates hitting relief centers to Peter, so Spider-Man checks in with Yuri about what Rhino's stomping orders are. She directs him to an Oscorp center that has had some reported earthquake activity, and that's honestly just code for it's probably Rhino. She signs off by telling him to keep the faith, something my dad's always said to me when life feels particularly hard or heavy.
That's really sweet of him.
Spider-Man drops in at a shipyard where Rhino is smashing Sable agents around and tells Rhino to pick on someone his own size. This doesn't go great, and a big fight with Rhino kicks off. Rhino tells Spider-Man he's doing this to earn his freedom, to not be in the suit anymore, and to not be Rhino anymore, and honestly, I totally get it.
Yeah, why hasn't Peter helped him try to get this thing off before?
Well, Spider-Man tells Rhino, "Oh, I always liked the suit."
Oh my god!
It's his prison, dude. Rhino promises Spider-Man that no suit, less trouble for you. He's begging him. He's like, "This is a win-win. Please let me live my life." And Spider-Man goes, "But it's camp."
But who will I chase?
Spider-Man kicks the shit out of Rhino, dropping cranes on him and throwing concrete at him. Just as Spider-Man has Rhino down for the count, Scorpion joins, and now you're fighting both of them at once.
See, this is why you should help.
Rhino is a massive monster running full speed at Spider-Man, while Scorpion dodges and flanks Spider-Man and throws poison balls out. Spider-Man asks if they all, Otto and his boys, have a name yet? Maybe the Scary Six? Or the Dirty Half Dozen? Scorpion offers a new team name, saying, "How about the We Murdered Spider-Man and Used His Corpse for a Blanket 6?
I love them dancing around the actual name.
I know, like, you have the copyrights, dude, say it.
Just say it.
Rhino tells Scorpion to shut up, he's embarrassing himself. When Rhino, a man who is fused into a giant rhino suit, is telling you that you're embarrassing, that is humbling. Through a balancing act of a beatdown, Spider-Man gets both Rhino and Scorpion on the ropes and traps them both into a shipping container and webs it shut. The cops surround the shipping container, apprehensive to get them out and put them back in the raft, but They get it done. Spider-Man calls Yuri to confirm that Electro, Vulture, Rhino, and Scorpion are all off the streets. Now that we've got 4 down, it's just Mr. Negative and Otto left. Yuri is concerned because cases of Devil's Breath are on the rise, and Oscorp is being coy about an anti-serum. She figures they're being greedy and trying to figure out how to monetize the cure for the bioterror weapon they in fact created.
Yeah, honestly, she's not wrong for thinking that.
Yeah, she's being so fucking real for that. And Spider-Man agrees, saying, yeah, he'd expect nothing less, but he can handle Devil's Breath. He has one of his best people on it. And that person is MJ. And she's going to the Oscorp penthouse right now to investigate Norman's home and look for Devil's Breath. Armed with a stolen stun gun, MJ makes it up to the penthouse and does some non-lethal takedowns along the way because we really can't have her implied killing people.
I know. It's just, it's so silly. And honestly, I don't think any of us were ready for how often we'd play as MJ.
Yeah, we're on to several at this point now.
Like, holy shit. Miles isn't bad because he has the hacking at least, which he could have shared with MJ.
The hacking is really interesting because it helps you set up your stealth, which has been a pretty big tenet of larger arena fights and things like that with multiple enemies.
But yeah, until MJ got the stun gun, it was really just like you said, like, knock shit over. You're a fucking cat.
Yeah. I mean, I love Stray, but you're committed to the bit with that, you know?
Exactly.
The other times MJ's like, if I throw a rock at that can, it'll make a noise, and then I can run by the man with the gun. And you're like, bitch, what are you doing? By the time MJ makes it up to the penthouse, Norman, Silver Sable, and her Sable agents have all left, so MJ mostly has the place to herself. Norman's apartment is gorgeous. Hugely high ceilings, there's a grand piano, sweeping views of the city, the absolute works. Spider-Man radios in saying he's seeing a lot of Sable activity in the lobby, and MJ asks him to keep his distance so he doesn't get caught, but she is comforted knowing he's nearby. MJ hasn't been here in a long time, maybe since childhood. There's a lot of kind of call-outs, notes, things like that, alluding to Harry leaving last year for Europe. Norman even got a painting commissioned to honor Harry leaving. MJ wonders why Norman was so fucking dramatic about Harry going on a Euro trip. It's not that deep. Within the apartment, MJ finds a secret door, and the key code is the last day Harry was in New York before leaving to go to Europe. Truly, Norman is the most dramatic bitch about this Euro trip. There's photos on the walls of Harry, MJ, and Peter as kids. There's a lot of Osborn memorabilia from Norman's work, and even a framed article of Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius when they were young.
Oh, when they were roommates.
They were roommates. MJ goes snooping in Harry's bedroom to find that his bed was removed and swapped in with a hospital bed.
Oh.
MJ is shocked to see this. I don't think she knew how sick he was or even that he was sick in general. She finds his diary, which has the day that Harry leaves for Europe marked, but Europe is in quotes. In the diary, there's a section he specifically wrote for Peter and MJ, and it says, "Guys, I'm really sorry. I'm sick, like really sick. Doctors think it's the same thing my mom had. Neurodegeneration, rapid onset. I've known for a while, but thought I could manage it. I didn't tell you because I didn't tell you. I was worried how you'd react. This Europe trip is a cover. I'm going in for treatment. Experimental, long-term. Dad's been working on it forever and hates the nickname the techs have for it. Devil's Breath.
Oh, no.
But maybe Devil's Breath is what I need. A little bit of bad to do a lot of good. Okay, Dad's here. Time to go."
Shit. Like, to discover, like, yeah, we knew it was supposed to be a cure at first, but for your best friend?
I know. It sucks that he didn't tell them. As MJ takes this in, the elevator chimes and Silver Sable, Norman Osborn, and her Sable agents enter. They're arguing because Norman doesn't see the value of Silver Sable lately. Silver Sable gets some air on the patio. She's like, "Jesus Christ, I'm doing my job, you asshole." Norman says the antidote is ready and he's personally going to go oversee it. Without Sable. Sable agents are littered through the apartment and are on standby now. MJ tells Spider-Man the antidote is ready and to follow Norman to the lab. He says he can't. The Sable agents are on one today, and the whole team is on double secret probation alert. If he follows, he'll get spotted. And MJ's like, "Well, shit, at least be ready, dude." She sneaks around the apartment, still determined to get into that secret room. The secret room in the apartment is a lab, and when she gets in, she sees a lot of Oscorp tech. There's a lot of spiders on display and research terrariums, too. MJ wonders if Norman Osborn is trying to reverse engineer Spider-Man's abilities. There's also some spiders that are boosted with camouflage and electricity infusion.
Oh, that's interesting.
Totally weird, right? It's nothing.
Probably not foreshadowing.
MJ finds small, round hand grenade bombs, blueprints for a rideable glider machine, crazy shit, but obviously it's probably nothing.
No, still haven't seen it, honestly.
Yeah.
Still no payoff.
There's a lot of research on both Harry and Mrs. Osborne's medical records. Norman was really earnestly trying to develop a cure for his wife and his son, but accidentally made the bioterrorist weapon Devil's Breath in the process.
Whoopsie.
You gotta hate when that happens. There's a big map in the middle of the room, and MJ finds the building that the Devil's Breath antidote is being held in. She also finds a video recording from 1986, a clinical trial on an early form of Devil's Breath. In it, we see a much younger Norman Osborn telling a small boy to let the medicine do its work. He's just a small Chinese boy, and his parents reassure the boy that this medicine will heal him and ask him to just relax. The tape is marked Martin Lee, third clinical trial.
Oh, fuck a duck.
Tiny Martin Lee is strapped to a chair, and he starts to hyperventilate. Otto appears screaming that they were just here for a consultation. Norman argues that the boy seemed ready, so let's fucking do this. Otto goes to help, and Martin's parents start screaming. Norman and Otto watch from behind a pane of observation glass as Martin Lee glows white and black, just like his Mr. Negative form.
Damn it.
His body bursts with energy, disseminating his parents, essentially melting them immediately as his energy touches them.
Oh, this poor fucking kid.
MJ looks on in absolute horror. She sees Norman and Otto on the tape watching as they created Mr. Negative. She says, "Oh my god, I have to get this." And she saves the video to a thumb drive. One of the subject spiders jumps at the glass and scares her. She backs up and knocks over another spider subject and breaks the glass.
Oops.
Silver Sable hears this and storms into the lab, demanding to know who's there. MJ hides under a table, and Silver Sable miraculously doesn't see her. The spider that was in the box she knocked over crawls on MJ, dancing on her neck. Once Silver Sable is fully out of the lab, MJ pats herself down, ironically not being a fan of spiders. MJ tells Spider-Man she has the lab location and so much more, so stay nearby and keep the motor running. MJ sneaks out of the lab, tasing more Sable agents unconscious in her wake. She gets outside to the patio, and the Sable agents spot her. She asks, "Hey Pete, are you here?" He says he's nearby. Silver Sable enters and shoots through the door at MJ. MJ tells him, "Northwest corner." Spider-Man goes, wait. But MJ says, "You're up," and she jumps off of the penthouse balcony.
Oh my god, she is ballsy.
She plummets to the earth as Silver Sable watches her fall, and then Spider-Man comes in, catches her, and tells her, "You're crazy."
She really had some fucking trust in him.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And he's like, "Are we dating or not?"
Oh, but it's such a badass move on her part. That's like Marty McFly jumping off the building and landing on the DeLorean. Like, it's so fucking cool.
It is the coolest shit she does in this game, hands down, bar none. MJ fills Spider-Man in on everything. Harry's illness, Norman and Otto developing Devil's Breath, everything. And Spider-Man hears this and says, "It's all my fault."
It really is.
Spider-Man promises she and Miles will look after Feast, and he can focus on the cure. She sends him off, and he says, "Thanks, partner." Spider-Man jumps and flies away, and the experimental spider from Norman's lab crawls across the back of MJ's jacket. Spider-Man sees the solution is to get the anti-serum and make everything right, and to get Martin Lee and Otto so they can make things right. He doesn't want them to throw their legacies and all the good they've done away just to spite Norman. Spider-Man calls Yuri, telling her there's an anti-serum and he's going to go check it out. Yuri heard that there's a helicopter that went down near the lab Spider-Man's heading to, which is concerning. She says she would send backup, but she simply doesn't have any. You know, since the world is on fire.
Right.
J. Jonah Jameson naturally blames all of this on Spider-Man while acknowledging Martin Lee is a lunatic terrorist.
Well, Spider-Man is a menace.
He says Spider-Man claims to be a hero, yet didn't warn anyone, which makes him criminally negligent, or he's in on it. Sure, man.
He just wants to blame Spider-Man.
Yeah. Deep downtown, Mr. Negative has entered the Oscorp lab and has Norman in custody. Demons drag Norman inside. Outside, there's legions of demons guarding whatever the team is doing inside with Norman Osborn. Spider-Man takes out a wave of demons, and Silver Sable calls him directly to tell him to back off. There's originally a Sable outpost that the demons took over, so Spider-Man has no faith in her actually doing anything since she's low-key useless. A legion of Sable agents drop down with jetpacks, angry that Spider-Man is here to help. Spider-Man now has to fight the Sable agents so he can go in and fight the rest of the demons, continually disappointed that the privatized military is still not here to help. Whatever revolutionizes you, buddy. With the demons and the Sable agents down, Spider-Man enters the Oscorp lab. As he goes to open the door, Silver Sable shoots at him.
Oh gosh, she keeps shooting.
She is furious. She says, "You harass my men, destroy my equipment, cost my client millions. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kill you right now." Spider-Man doesn't go with the ethical thing of being like, "Hey, dipshit, don't kill Spider-Man," but instead goes personal. He says, "Look, I don't like you, you don't like me, but Lee has your client inside this building right now, and he's gonna kill him if we don't do something. We can fight each other, or we can fight Lee, but we can't do both."
I don't think the whole "you don't like me, I don't like you" thing has ever worked.
No one's ever been like, "I find that really endearing."
Yeah, I love that way to start a conversation.
To open a conversation with that is crazy. She backs up, puts her guns down, and opens the door for him. She says, "You help me secure Norman. After that, I make no promises." A legion of demons come after them, and Silver says she'll handle them and sends Spider-Man in after Norman. The building is destroyed, doors and walls gone, and the floor broken open with holes into the earth below. The whole building is swirling in black and white Mr. Negative energy. As Spider-Man drops down, Mr. Negative jumps him, saying to stay out of it. This is between me and Norman Osborn. Mr. Negative grabs Spider-Man and puts him back into the negative space dream world. They're in the lab still, but it's completely black and white and gray. Spider-Man tells Mr. Negative he knows what happened with his parents. Mr. Negative is angry, floating through his own memory of being in the lab as a child with his parents. He tells Spider-Man, "My parents are dead because of me. Dead because of what Norman Osborn did to me." Spider-Man sees the memory of the energy surge that swept through Martin Lee and killed his parents, and how they were instantly decimated by Martin when he was a child and didn't know what he was doing. The scene shifts to the Feast Center, and Spider-Man tells him, "You're more than your past. Don't let it control you." Martin Lee tells him, "I try so hard to make my parents proud and honor their legacy." Then the scene shifts to the Osborn rally, and he says, "But to truly honor them, Norman Osborn must see justice." The world is dark again, and Spider-Man steps through a doorway into a black void with floating, glowing particles and demon masks. He sees the manifestation of Martin Lee's pain and anger, how it's fueling his power. He sees a picture of Lee's parents, how they're the source of all of this. Then he gets snapped back into the present. A screen comes up saying, "Moments earlier." Inside the lab, Dr. Michaels is giving an antidote to Martin Lee, warning him that this is the only sample. Mr. Negative takes it and strikes Dr. Michaels and picks up a sword. Norman tells him it was all an accident. He was trying to help him. Mr. Negative holds the sword to Norman's throat as it glows with energy. Norman screams, feeling the blade at his throat. Spider-Man whips the sword down, saying, "This won't bring your parents back." Mr. Negative grows angrier, saying, "Why do you insist on trying to save this piece of scum?"
Honestly, I mean, he's not wrong in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Norman fucked up.
Yeah, he really did.
Spider-Man says, "I'm trying to save you, Martin. Don't let revenge win. Fight it." Mr. Negative hits Spider-Man with a sword and sends him flying. He then jumps out, sword in hand, and they create a battle arena in the lab. Mr. Negative, full of pure anger, his powers raging with hatred inside of him. He's precise with his attacks, keeping calm with a steady stance and shooting out dark energy at Spider-Man while reminding him that Norman Osborn is a cancer on the city. They fight as Mr. Negative's hatred burns itself out and Martin Lee falls to the ground, not glowing. Spider-Man tells him to fight it, but this snaps him back into being Mr. Negative. This sends him into super negative mode, floating and flying above the ground with massive 40-foot glowing demons behind him, swiping at Spider-Man. The battleground transforms into a negative world with black glowing figures fighting Spider-Man, just like he saw the first time Mr. Negative pulled him into the power space.
His power increased really fast.
Oh my god, the power creep's wild. Spider-Man tells him to beat the demon, and Mr. Negative simply declares, I am the demon. Spider-Man defeats his faceless shadow monsters and is left with Mr. Negative embodying a massive demon that comes out to attack and disappears as Spider-Man gets the upper hand on Mr. Negative. Spider-Man kicks at Mr. Negative, occasionally seeing glimmers of Martin Lee under the shadows of darkness consuming him. Eventually, Spider-Man knocks the sword out of Mr. Negative's hands, and Mr. Negative takes full control of the demon to attack Spider-Man. Spider-Man kicks through the demon to kick Mr. Negative in the face, and as he does, the demon breaks apart in a cloud of smoke. Martin Lee is there, on the ground, saying, Norman Osborn has to pay. Spider-Man webs the antidote out of his hands, saying, I know, Martin, but this is the wrong way. Martin Lee is a man again, too tired to be Mr. Negative anymore. The anger is there, but his power is completely tapped out. The demon soldiers he had flanking Norman Osborn and Dr. Michaels pass out. A rumbling is heard on the floors above, and through the ceiling, tentacled arms rip apart the walls as Otto Octavius lowers himself down. He looks at Martin Lee, calls him useless, and throws him across the floor. One tentacle goes after Spider-Man, knocking the antidote out of his hands. The antidote lays on the ground a few feet away, and Spider-Man goes right for it. Otto's tentacles smash at him, and eventually do grab Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is able to web the antidote back to his own hands. Otto knocks out Spider-Man and pulls him up to see him, face to face. Spider-Man drops the antidote, but Otto catches it. Norman, from afar, recognizes his old friend and says, Otto? Otto goes to greet him, towering over Norman with his tentacles. Otto says, that look on your face. You can't imagine how satisfying it is. One tentacle wraps Norman up tight, and Otto asks, ready for your final act? With his hostage, Otto leaves Spider-Man bloody and bruised on the ground of the lab. Sable and her agents come in. She checks on Spider-Man, and she tells him Otto is gone. Dr. Michaels says he needs a hospital. Silver and Dr. Michaels get Spider-Man on his feet, and Spider-Man says, no hospital. Feast. They take him to the feast shelter, and Miles clears a path for him. Dr. Michaels asks for the head doctor, and Miles unfortunately explains that he, a teenager, is mostly running the place alone.
Oh my god.
Dr. Michaels asks for medical equipment, masks, gloves, anything sterile, and Miles jumps into action. Silver Sable holds Spider-Man's hand as they go to save Spider-Man. Spider-Man whispers, thank you. Silver says, you can thank me by not dying.
So I can kill you later.
MJ stands horrified in the doorway, watching Spider-Man receive medical help from Dr. Michaels. After some time, Dr. Michaels stops and goes to MJ saying, he'll live, but he needs rest. Spider-Man tries to get up, and MJ runs to him saying, take it easy. Spider-Man asks for May. Aunt May is in a hospital bed, fading in and out of consciousness in her office.
In her office? Like, they just set all that shit up for her.
Well, people love to sleep in there, so
That's
they might
true.
as well put in a bed. MJ takes him to her, saying, they say she can go at any moment. Spider-Man limps away, saying he has to find Otto. He has the anti-serum. I don't know if I can beat him. MJ says maybe Spider-Man needs some help from his friend Peter. Peter built those arms. If anyone can find a weakness, it's him. Empowered, Spider-Man gets up to go, and MJ tells him, go get him, Tiger.
She says the thing!
She says the thing!
She says the thing!
The spider from Norman's secret lab finally crawls off of MJ's jacket. It enters a doorway where it webs down and lands on a teenager walking through the doorway. Miles Morales.
Oh no.
Miles is startled by a spider bite on his hand and swats at it to reveal it's the same spider.
Oh, Miles, your destiny is sealed.
Outside, Spider-Man knows that MJ is right. He built the neural interface. That means he can destroy it. There must be something at the lab he can use. On the way, Silver Sable calls to say that she's had a change of heart and has to leave New York. She's going home to reflect on the life she chose. She says her agents will stay as Osborn is still bankrolling their entire lives, but she says she will miss Spider-Man and his bizarre witticisms. Spider-Man calls her a strange and violent lady, but ultimately wishes her well. Back at the lab, Spider-Man resolves to destroy what he and Otto created, with a little creation of his own. He builds a new suit, a custom-designed black suit with a light yellow glowing spider accent on the front.
Honestly, it's probably smart because he's going after Octavius because he helped build the suit.
Yeah.
Octavius helped build his other suit, so
Fully.
he needs one that he did not fucking touch.
Yeah, he needs a souped up one where the power buttons are on a different side or some shit. He gets an alert that Otto is climbing the Oscorp Tower with Norman in his clutches. The news is reporting live as the city's mayor is being held captive over his city. At the top, Norman screams, "What, you want me to beg? That's not gonna happen." Otto chuckles and says, "The world will know the truth before they mop you off the pavement."
Oh my god.
Otto's tentacle holds Norman tighter and starts filming Norman on a phone. He holds the phone at Norman saying, "Tell them what you did. Everything you built is built on lies." He drops Norman and lets him fall a few feet before catching him again. Otto continues, "You stole my company, my ideas, now the truth." Norman says, "The truth? Okay, the truth is you were only ever worth a damn when you worked for me. The truth is you can never accept that I'm better than you.
Oh my god.
You're a failure, Otto, and you always will be." Otto's lip quivers hearing this, and he just straight up drops Norman. Norman falls to the ground, sailing through the air, but is caught and landed safely by Spider-Man. On the ground after shitting himself, Norman looks up and on at Spider-Man. Spider-Man circles and meets Otto on the roof. He demands the anti-serum. He tells him, "Otto, you've worked your whole life to help people. Please." Otto says, "You're fighting the wrong man, but have it your way." Their fight begins, and Otto declares, "I'll turn over the anti-serum when Norman pays for his crimes." Otto is fast and brawling with tentacles that shoot out quickly and painfully. The battle arena is a tight rooftop with no cover, nowhere to run. Otto is single-minded, screaming that Norman has to lose everything. Otto manages to set the roof on fire, so Spider-Man is forced to swing around a telecom tower at the top to avoid being burned alive. Spider-Man pleads that people are dying and they need the anti-serum now. Otto promises to give out the anti-serum after he brings down Osborn. Spider-Man managed to get the drop on Otto, and through this, Otto sends a claw out at the Spider-Man mask and breaks it off, revealing one of Peter's eyes and his mouth.
Fuck.
Otto comes up on him saying, "Such a disappointment, Parker."
He knows.
Peter turns to him with his mask half destroyed, face visible, saying, "You knew?" Otto says, "I tried to warn you, Peter, but you didn't listen." Peter says, "You knew." Otto says, "I won't let you win. This means too much to me." And Peter says, "Not more than it means to me." With cards on the table, the fight continues, and Peter rips off one of the tentacles. He and Otto go tumbling down the side of Oscorp Tower. Peter stands on the side of the skyscraper as the roof above them completely explodes. He screams at his mentor, "Can't you see all the people you're hurting?" Otto tells him, "You'll never understand. You haven't suffered like I have. You should be on my side." Peter tells him, "I was." Otto comes after him with his remaining tentacles, and Peter punches him in his face as he gets closer. Otto gets Peter in one claw and brings him up to his face, while Peter tells him to think of the man he used to be, his guiding light, his partner, his friend. Otto tells him plainly, "That man is gone. You can't save me, Peter." Peter breaks free and tells him, "I guess you'll have to save yourself." He's done holding back and kicks the shit out of Otto. He tells him, "You were my hero. I hate that you're making me do this. We were going to change the world." The betrayal of the man he trusted coming after him after all this time, of trying to kill him now, it fuels Peter into kicking the shit out of Otto.
Oh, man, it sucks too.
It does. Otto makes a key move and gets Peter up against the wall under the weight of one of his claws. Peter is trapped against the building with a gnashing claw at his face, powered by the man he trusted with his life. He tells him, "Otto, stop." Otto comes up close and tells him, "Oh, Parker, if you want to change the world, you have to be the kind of man who can make the hardest decisions." Otto holds the anti-serum in one claw and drives the other claw into Peter's chest.
Oh my god.
Peter says, "I couldn't agree more," and reaches over to grab the chip out of Otto's neck.
Oh no.
With the chip out of his neck, Otto loses the reins of his monstrosity and begins to plummet down. Peter catches his breath, but then remembers the anti-serum and jumps down after Otto for it. Otto screams, falling to the ground, and Peter dives after him, watching as Otto slides down a piece of loose scaffolding and into Oscorp Tower. They land in a lab where Spider-Man picks up the anti-serum. He takes off his mask to catch his breath. On the ground, sweaty, enraged, exhausted, defeated, Otto reaches up. He tells him, Peter, I saw you as a son. I should have known you'd turn on me just like all the others. Peter's eyes well with hurt and tears as he looks down at Otto, and Peter says, Turn? Turn? I worshipped you, your mind, your conscience, wanting to help others the way you never gave up. Both men are crying now out of exhaustion and betrayal at this point, both holding each other and the antidote hanging between them. Otto says, that's because men like us have a duty, a responsibility to use our talents in the service of others, even if they don't appreciate it. We have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not. Peter breaks their hold, throwing his arm down, screaming, No, you're wrong! You were everything I wanted to be. You just threw it away. Peter picks up a limp tentacle and slams it on the ground. Otto reaches out, unable to move his weak, broken body. He says, Yes, you're right, of course. Peter, I see that now. The neural interface affected my mind. But I can fix it. We can fix it. Together, if you'll help me.
Just not giving up is just insane.
Peter stands further away. He says, I'll do everything I can to make sure you get the best help. And he turns to walk away.
It's all he can offer.
Otto screams, No. If they put me away, they'll take away my arms. I'll be trapped in this useless body. Please, Peter, that wasn't me. You said you'd never abandon me. You promised, remember? And of course, you'll rest easy knowing your secret is safe with me.
Oh my God.
Peter listens to him until Otto threatens him with his identity. Peter hears how this man is twisted into a manipulative monster and tells him, You do what you think is best, Doc. It's all any of us can, even when it hurts like hell. Peter limps away as Otto cries out, screaming for Peter and unable to move. Spider-Man gets the antidote out to Feast, where Dr. Michaels is able to continue expanding the antidote, making enough for the city. Spider-Man looks down at Aunt May, who is barely conscious. Dr. Michaels says he'll need the entire sample to create a baseline to make enough for everyone. It could take a few hours, maybe a day. Spider-Man asks, if they could use it to cure someone right now, could they do that? Dr. Michaels says if they save one person, they wouldn't have enough for the whole city. Spider-Man looks out at the entire Feast shelter full of people sick, dying from devil's breath. Dr. Michaels leaves the room, with only Spider-Man and Aunt May left inside. Spider-Man kneels at Aunt May's bed, saying, You're going to be okay, ma'am. I have the cure right here. She turns to look at him and weakly says, Take off your mask. I want to see my nephew.
Oh my God.
Peter obeys and rips his mask off, revealing the face of a man losing everything, and the boy she raised. He asks, You knew? She says, I've known for a while. He tells her he never wanted her to worry, and she tells him, I did, but I am so proud of you. And Ben would be too, all those people you saved. She looks at him in a cold sweat with tubes in her nose. He tells her, I don't know what to do, and she simply says, Yes, you do. He holds the antidote over her IV bag as she coughs, but stops and yells out. He can't save her for the sake of the city. He puts the anti-serum down and simply holds her hand, crying over her as Aunt May takes her last breath.
Oh my God, it's fucking devastating.
The screen goes black and beeps with the sound of her heart monitor flatlining. Sometime later, anti-serum stations are all over the city, with people lining up to get their anti-serum shots from Feast. Dr. Michaels, Rhea Morales, and Miles Morales work together to safely make sure New Yorkers get their shots and are spared from the devil's breath. Then, MJ, Peter, Miles, and Rio stand in the park, all in black, as May Parker is buried next to Ben Parker.
Oh.
Her headstone reads, When you help someone, you help everyone.
That's what it's supposed to say.
Miles puts his hand on Peter's shoulder, and MJ holds his hand as they say goodbye. Otto Octavius is ushered into a cell in the raft, weak and unable to walk on his own. He shakes in his confined cell, his tremors getting worse. 3 months later, Peter is in the diner waiting for MJ. She introduces herself as the Daily Bugle's associate editor, and he congratulates her. He hasn't found a job yet, but he was considering a career change. Maybe he'll be a chef. MJ laughs at this and reminds him he's a good scientist. Please don't deal with food. He reminds her that the last project he worked on created a monster octopus that almost destroyed the city. And then MJ concedes, saying, well, he did do a great chicken curry once. They chat for a bit, then kiss across the table.
Oh.
Their fire reignited. Peter is moving into a new apartment, a terrible, shitty studio apartment, but it's kind of his whole deal.
Yeah.
Miles is helping him move furniture. Miles breaks the ice and says, so hey, Pete, I kind of gotta ask you about something I can't really tell my mom about. And Peter says, okay, what's up? And Miles closes the door and says, weird things have been going on physically.
He's like, oh God, I don't want to have this conversation.
Deadass. No, Peter's like, okay, you're at that age where your body starts to change, so you may be noting some areas, for example. And Miles cuts him off saying, oh my God. No, not that, but I think it's better that I just show you. And Peter, thinking he's going to whip his dick out, says, no! But Miles jumps up and hangs onto the ceiling with just his fingertips. Miles says, it's pretty weird, right? Peter jumps and does the same, meeting him upside down on the ceiling with just his hands as well. He looks at him and says, it's not that weird. This was actually Najee Jeter's audition and chemistry read with Yuri Lowenthal.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Across town, in a high-rise penthouse, Norman Osborn goes to the secret room in his apartment. A door MJ never explored opens up to a test tube area hanging in the middle of the room. Harry Osborn floats with a black goop all around him. Norman tells him, we were so close, but I'll keep trying. I will find a cure. He puts his hand on the glass and promises, I will. I love you, son. From the other side of the glass, the black goop, the symbiote, reaches out and meets Norman's hand. And that was Spider-Man.
Bra fucking vo. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Andrea, for taking us through that. That was quite the epic adventure indeed.
That Aunt May scene fucks me up. Like, I've played this game a handful of times because obviously you're going to do a new game plus mode where you can fly around as Spider-Man in his underoos, but god damn it, it's hard for him to do that scene in his underwear.
Every single time that scene is difficult. And it really brings home what Dr. Octavius says to you just right before that moment. And it's that a truly great man has to make the decisions that nobody else can make to save everyone else.
Deadass! Peter Parker and Spider-Man will never cease to learn from others. And unfortunately, some of those lessons are fucking terrible.
Oh my god, right? It's just terrible. But this game is so fucking perfect. I can't believe we didn't mention Spider Cop.
I had to cover a lot of ground.
I know. It's one of my favorite running gags throughout the entire game, though, is him doing Spider Cop at Yuri and her going crazy about it.
Yes, so Spider Cop is Spider-Man's kind of gritty, black and white noir detective where he's like, Spider Cop walks through the city rumbling with love and shit.
It's Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, it's literally Spider-Man Noir, and Yuri fucking hates it. She's constantly like, can you shut the fuck up? I have people on fire, and he's like, all right, the city is dying or whatever.
But yeah, knowing that they're married, that banter where she hates Spider Cop, I'm like, oh, that's a married couple bickering right there.
I'm going, I acknowledge that you love this, but I fucking hate how much you love it. They're sweet. I like it.
Well, thank you so much. Goombas, if you enjoyed that, please make sure you are liked, you are subscribed. You can leave comments to us. Let us know how you liked the episode.
Yeah, I'd love a review. That'd be great. I think I did a good job, and I'd like it if you did as well.
I think you did a fantastic job personally. You can check us out at our website, theothercastlepodcast.com.
That's theothercastlepodcast.com.
Over there, you can find links to our Patreon, to our Discord, to our Instagram. Speaking of Patreon, our patrons keep this show absolutely ad-free just for all of you.
We love you.
And so we want to give them a big Patreon shout-out. Starting with Hell Knight, Charlie, Ethan, Matt,
Whiskey Pro, Rihanna, Mabel, Zane,
Alex, Patrick, So Thanatoasted, Mike, Anthony,
Conrado, Nolan, Unga Bunga, Sneaky Walrus,
Owen, Luigi, X of Triforce, Anderson,
Steve, Andy, Adam, Janik, Nick,
Jake, Raph, Renee, Katrina, Rain,
Cafford, Roman, Big Winter Hat, Joshua, Anne Marie,
Lil Brimstone, Landon, Honorbon, Anna Versed, Zan,
Alex, Jutsu, Mozart, Tania, Ian,
Anthony, Danny Boy, Zira, There Once Was Us,
Chase, Alfredo, Mikolash,
Taramek, Amber, Berserk Panda, QM 1993,
Damien, AJ Porting to the Bridges, Paul, Omar,
Aaron, Molly, Krisha, Mollymock.
Jackie, Jacob, Ellen, and Steamed Hams from Albany.
Once again, thank you all so much for being a part of the Goomba Gang. You can all join us for just $2 a month and have your name read out at the end of an episode.
If you want to ball on a budget, hang out with us in the Discord. I shitpost sometimes and yell into the ether.
All right, Goombas. Well, as always, this is Tom and Andrea reminding you.
Flip, 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 flip.
And don't skip the cutscenes. Bye!
A Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves, or draws a rat flies, or